Hello, everyone. My name is Dawn, and welcome to the Compendium of Discomfort.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dog, and welcome to the Compendium of Discomfort.
Yeah. Thought I'd switch it up on you the last minute there.
Yeah, I had to improvise here. Yeah, we're Dog and Dog. Actually, both of us are Dog.
Yep.
And yeah, we are here today to talk about something which you might have seen in the preview image already. But what exactly are we talking about today, actually?
We're talking about some French excellence, as George Orwell would say. We're talking about Clair Obscur Expedition 33, which is... I think after playing it and having enjoyed it, basically, I get the title more now, and I've become more fond of it. But even still, first hearing that title, I was like, "This is kind of a bad title." Like it's a bit,
it's a bit unwieldy.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful, and it doesn't really express a lot in it. Not that it has to, but it's one of those generic game titles. Like what was that game called? Like Immortals of Avium or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
It kind of has that certain aura to it,
Yeah. And like it's just like a bunch of words in a row. It's like. They all make sense. This is a bit like when you see a cover of the game, it also looks a bit like a game that has a title like this. Like the art style. I think like it looks really good. Don't get me wrong, but the entire thing has like these again the Immortals of Aveum, whatever. This like vibe where you look at it and you're like, oh, it's like a fantasy game. Like it's got like the fantasy art style. And it has like a fantasy name. It's just a bunch of words, and there's like some dudes in fantasy clothes and whatnot. Fortunately, slight spoiler here, but it's pretty good. Yep. We can take that much away. You might have already heard this, you the listener, that the game's pretty alright. It's been making waves everywhere through social media, YouTube, whatever, and it's getting some pretty high praise, I dare say. I got it like a day or two after it released because a lot of people were talking about it, and I was talking about it to two friends who got it, and they were very happy with it. And naturally, as every listener already knows, I finished it in like 2 days.
Of course.
Or like I think it was 2. And replayed it immediately. I think I have finished it 3 times by now. Once on a new save, once on NG+. And there's like one question which I will direct at you, which is also actually a reason for why I invited you specifically to talk to me about this, is what exactly is this game actually?
Well, it's a game that was developed by a French independent studio. Is it Sandfall Interactive, her name? I meant to actually check this up before I went. Yeah,
Sandfall.
Yeah, I obviously wasn't familiar with the work because this is their debut game. But it is essentially a European-made game, but it takes very heavy inspiration from, I guess you could say, like Xbox 360 era JRPG. Which in turn has taken a lot of there was a lot of kind of bleed over from PS2 JRPGs. So a lot of the same kind of structures of like very enclosed environments with only like a couple of branching paths, or maybe like one giant wide open area, and then like turn-based battles then as a key component of its combat.
Yeah, like Final Fantasy X comes to mind immediately.
Or Lost Odyssey. Like I looked at this and this is like super like Lost Odyssey.
Yeah, and I think like even the premise is very similar to the original premise of FF10, if I recall correctly.
The original premise for FF10 was that I think it was when you turned 18. It might have been. That's when you die or whatever. But and I think the protagonists of the original draft of FF10 were 17. So like this is kind of almost exactly like that, except you've bumped the age up to 33.
Yeah. So that's where the 33 in the title comes from, which is there's like the general premise of the game story wise is that there's this very French town called Lumiere, and they have like there's a big monolith in the distance with a giant paintress painting numbers on it, and every year the numbers go down by 1, and everyone who is that age doesn't die, but they vanish. They like turn into flowers.
Yeah, so essentially treat it like a death within the world, though. Yeah, like that's how the character. And this is kind of a thing, like, you're talking about the premise and whatever else. Like, I didn't really know exactly what it was going to be. I knew it was something kind of akin to that Final Fantasy X abandoned plot idea that we're talking about. But like right away, like from the start of the game, I don't think they really beat you over the head with saying like, here is the exact mechanics of the world and here's how it all works. It kind of introduces it gradually through dialogue, and characters refer to that what they call the gommage, which is the point of death when the painter paints the new number on the monolith. And the way it doles you out, like it doesn't really knock you over the head. It doesn't spell it out in a way to make it super obvious. It kind of just like gives you bit by bit and has little bits of the character reaction to certain revelations to us, but not revelations to them, and the contextualizing what it means to live in that world through that. I'll not get too deep into that right now, but I actually really like that aspect of how it was told out.
Like how it's normalized for some characters, like normalized for everyone, but some people actually reacted by saying like, yeah, this is just how the world is. I had like 34 good years. I'm happy I can die now. But however, there is a yearly expedition, which is a bunch of bozos, usually the oldest ones, go out towards the monolith to try to stop the paintress, is the general idea. And I mean, no one really ever comes back, but the general idea is that like the last expedition is gonna make some more progress, so the expedition before it, after it, can go even further next time. So eventually they would get to the paintress and be able to stop her from painting the numbers and killing everyone. That's like the general idea, and it's like, as you said, it's like explained in universe at the start with our main character Gustav is a 33-year-old. And so he knows everything. He's like very enthusiastic about the expedition. He like he definitely wants to stop the paintress and whatnot. He's very unhappy with this fate, whereas a lot of other people have like resigned to it. A lot of characters, and they're like, yeah, this is just how old we get, and that's it. And he wants to change something. So he's not the expedition's leader actually, but he is like a very important figure because he invents specific tech that helps them. And so the idea is that Gustav and the rest of the expedition 33, after this 34th year, go towards the paintress, and they try to stop her. That's the idea.
I actually think it's really, really interesting as well too, because again, contextualization of the way the information is doled out is that we see this big monolith in the distance, and it becomes known to you from early on in the game that once the paintress paints this number, these people are going to gommage or die, and that's like the start of the new expedition also. But through the dialogue with other characters, you find out first of all the number started at 100. So like, that automatically like paints a very dire picture. We're at 33 now. We've
it's not been going well.
It's not been going well. So this whole idea of let's stop the paintress has been going on for ages, and there's a lot of characters that are very disillusioned by this. So like even Gustav's sister says to him about, you're just throwing your life away in the expedition. These expeditions go out there every year and barely any of them come back ever. Most of them just die. You're throwing away your final year at life to basically I'll mute my phone there. To basically chase a lost cause. But as you say, Gustav does believe in his ability to do some good. Like I think like there's a bit of a bravado where he's saying like, oh, now we're going to go and take the paintress down. But I think he does believe, as you say, that he's an inventor. He's built all these relationships with the people in his expedition. He does believe that they can cause some greater good in the world than just sitting static and waiting for it to inevitably happen. I think that's really, really great framing. As I say, like, just I remember when they said it started at 100. I remember sitting there going, "Oh, fuck!"
They have not been doing this very well.
Well, not even that they've been doing it well. It's tough. It's super tough. And no one in Lumiere itself seems very aware of what's beyond the boundaries of Lumiere. So like every time, the first time someone goes out, it's practically a new experience for each expedition. So it's like this terrifying kind of hill to climb as you learn what the previous expeditions have left behind to help you, and as you adjust to what's in the world itself. You're only one small tiny part, and you're finally getting to see the rest of it, basically.
Yeah, something I really like about which you mentioned regarding Gustav is this whole idea of like we are this expedition and the ones after us are going to go even further. So he doesn't think he will actually succeed. Like this is not really what it's about. Which is like in his combat finisher, which is the way he says one of the expedition models, which is for those who come after, and it's like. It's a very very like emblematic of how they think the expeditioners. I mean, where the whole idea is you find remnants of other expeditions as well, and some of them are like, yeah, we set up these climbing spots for the next expeditions, and we know we are not going to make it, but this way the next one can go further, and the one after that maybe even further, and that's the whole idea. So they just. It's like pretty rough because they do pile corpses on corpses essentially.
Oh yeah,
is what they are banking on. It's pretty dire, but also as you said, like Gustav, of course he does want to stop the painters himself, but the whole idea of these expeditions is that they move on. So like when very early on when my unimportant characters die, they do the whole motto of. I think it's if one falls, we continue. So the idea is that you move forward. You have to make progress. Someone dying doesn't mean that you lost it. Like you should use the opportunity to somehow get the next expedition further.
Yeah, as you say, it's for those that come after. It's like it's a really really clever way of framing the environmental storytelling of these expeditions before you, but also making you feel. I think there's many hands holding you up, and even as a 33rd especially, there's been so many before you. You say it gives great importance to stuff like the climbing hooks, as you say, because an expedition went before you and put those there, and if you didn't have those climbing hooks there, you wouldn't have got past this area as easily. So even while the 33rd expedition is still struggling, or expedition 33, I should say, not the 33rd, is still struggling through all these challenges, they are being assisted in death by all the ones that came before them, which I find is very very cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the whole idea, essentially. And you find, like, some expeditions were specialized in stuff, like, funnily enough, the 69th, that was the Climbers expedition, actually.
Yeah.
And they talk about that a few times, actually, that they set up a lot of these hooks because they did make some good progress. Or, like, some other expeditions were, like, known for slightly more outlandish things, which I don't want to talk about just yet.
Okay, yeah, fair.
Because there's, like, one very late on.
I think I know the one you're talking about. Yeah. That one is really good. It's really, really good.
But like, not all of them are unique in this way, but there's, like, some of them are specialized in stuff. Some of them are known for, like, something in particular. But the idea is that every expedition is supposed to make some sort of progress, so they eventually can stop this, and everyone in Lumiere can actually live peacefully.
Yeah, the idea, I guess, is like they're not sure how to accomplish it, because at the end of the day, there's this giant, like, I guess we didn't explain it, the monoliths in the distance from Lumiere, and the Paintress, like, is this massive entity that seems to rise up from the bottom of the monolith once every year, wipes away the number, and then paints the new number on there. So I guess, like, them as the citizens, they're assuming, okay, if we go and kill that thing, that'll stop her writing a number, but they don't really, there's no set in stone plan where, it's like a myth passed down through time or whatever. If you stop this person, this will stop this whole thing. It's like, I guess, desperation. It's like the best idea they have because it's something they can physically see happening. So there's a great deal of uncertainty too on whether that will accomplish anything at all. But it's the best plan they got, really.
Yeah, like, they can't really do anything else. Like, and as you said, they don't really know anything outside of their own village or their own town. Very early on, we see, like, within this town, they there's, like, a few hints towards other stuff. Like, for example, they do know these malevolent entities called Nevrons, which is something they know from the start, which is just all kinds of creatures, essentially. All kinds of creatures that try to kill you. And another thing they do mention very early on is a figure called Esquier. There's a statue of this Esquier in the town right at the start, and there's like a guy who can paint it and whatnot, and you see it. It's like a pretty round looking fella. But so they like have these myths around what's outside. They know something. Sometimes people come back and talk about stuff. But generally speaking, like as you said, going to the painters and trying to stop her because she's painting the new numbers and people die according to the numbers apparently is their best idea, and that's the general premise of the game, and that's what they teach you in the intro, and they also teach you something interesting, which is how the combat in this game works. It's as you said, it's turn-based, but there's a pretty huge difference to a lot of turn-based games, except of course Paper Mario, which is the very, very obvious inspiration. In terms of defense anyway. So like you're there's like another reason why I like you being here, which is that you're a pretty huge fan of 1,000 Years Door, the Paper Mario game. And in that game like combat also works in a similar fashion. I don't want to say the same, we're going to elaborate on that, but in a turn-based game where you have some active inputs to influence damage you do and damage you take.
So like in the active element of the Paper Mario games has actually existed since Mario RPG. There always was like a element of like time presses to increase damage and stuff like that there, but over time it's kind of evolved, and by the time it's got to the 1,000-Year Door, that would be, I guess, the most complete version of that system. And I do see Expedition 33 cribbing quite a lot. I've heard people say like Valkyrie Profile and stuff plays quite similar to this too, but I've not played those, so can't really comment. But like 1,000-Year Door, for example, so like in 1,000-Year Door, as far as attack and defense goes, if you're attacking, you get time presses to do more damage. If you're defending, you have two options: either to defend normally, which is usually quite an easy thing to do, but you'll usually take one less damage than you usually would have, so it's not that big of a deal, but better than taking a full hit. And then the other option is to attempt a parry. Basically, it's not called a parry in Paper Mario. I forget what it's called. It's like a reflect or something like that. But you press B, and it's a much tighter frame window. I think it's like 3 frames, something like that. Maybe I'm massively overestimating that, but it's pretty tight. And if you do that perfectly, you take 0 damage. So it incentivizes you very much to go for the parry when you feel confident with the timing on moves. And Expedition 33 does a lot of the same sorts of things too. Yeah.
So just like to take Expedition 33's wind out of its sails a bit, the actual offense in the game is much simpler. Not in terms of the actual turn-based simplicity, but like whereas in Paper Mario, to my knowledge, you need to actually press in the same timing as the attacks as they hit, and such. Like if Mario stomps on a Goomba, you press at the moment where they connect.
What?
In sorry.
Oh no, well I feel there's a couple of interesting things about how the Paper Mario combat works over this. Like, and I think it's worth explaining how the offense works in this game a little bit more. And basically is that when you do an attack in Clair Obscur, you get essentially, or a skill, sorry, you get like a little, what would be almost like a rhythm game beat map. And they're not complicated. It's like usually 1 or 2 inputs, and the timing's either slow or fast. But they don't really change. It's just like usually like, you know, you do a move with my L that puts fire in someone, and it'll be 2 X prompts, and you press X. And that's pretty much, you've seen it for everyone. That's how it works throughout the whole game. For every skill, it's either that quicker or slower, and it's always 1 to 3 prompts. In Paper Mario, for example, when you do a jump attack on an enemy, you can time the jump. When a jump connects, you can time an A press, and you'll usually get like an additional 1 or 2 jumps on top of it. When you're using the hammer, it actually changes from like an A press, you know, which because Mario A they jump. And the hammer's a different thing, so you hold left as if you're swinging the hammer back until a light comes up, and then if you release it perfectly on time, you'll get the maximum damage. But what makes 1,000-Year Door, what separates it apart, from the other Paper Marios, and that's why I always go specifically to 1,000-Year Door when I'm talking about that type of combat, is stylish actions. And stylish actions are entirely optional in Paper Mario 1,000-Year Door, but it's an element that was added to them that makes the combat that little bit more active and that little bit cooler. And what a stylish action is like, say I was talking earlier about you jump on an enemy, you time the A press perfectly, and you do another jump. What you can also do is press B at the apex of that jump, and Mario will do a pose. And that pose, and you can do this in every attack, and every part of an attack has a stylish part. And if you do these stylish prompts correctly. It doesn't prompt you yet. You kind of just get a feel for it and timing for it. There's a crowd also that's watching all the fights that's in Thousand Year Door, and they will be more impressed the more stylishly you fight. So the more crowds you get, then you get all these other benefits. Like crowds will throw you items. It'll give you more super meter. There's super meter in that game. There's lots of benefits to getting really, really involved, and the combat, the offense element of the combat is super active in Thousand Year Door. Clair Obscur never has anything like that. It is literally just press the 2X things. And actually, one more thing about the Paper Mario series in general too. And this has existed since Mario RPG. Was that every one of them had a badge that was something like badges of like skills. Sorry, in Paper Mario, that was like an infinite jump badge. And what that would allow you to do is jump on an enemy infinitely as long as you got the timing right. And I think it goes up to 100 and then stops. So you can do like 100 damage enemy, which is a shitload of damage in Paper Mario, by the way. You can kill most things with just doing that. But after a couple of bounces, the timing starts to become stricter and stricter. So I think it goes down to literally like a couple of frames. And it becomes super, super difficult to do. It just becomes like a rhythm you have to get used to. Again, Clair Obscur is nothing like that, which I find is a great shame. Like, that could have added like a great dimension to the combat, where if you do timed hits correctly, you get like a shitload more damage, but it doesn't have that sort of scaling to its combat system in the same way Thousand Year Door has. It just has do your attack setups, which is like the more important thing in Clair Obscur.
Yeah, I think the quick time events in you said like the rhythm beat maps essentially, where it's like press at a certain time to get a perfect, get like some bonus damage, and I feel like the entire game actually does feel balanced around hitting most perfects. Yeah. So there's in terms of actual offense, most of your player expression comes from the setups that you do, because the characters they all have a lot of moves and like a lot of abilities that you can teach them, and they do have some really cool synergies as well. So there's a lot of stuff you can do, but just because this active element gets talked about a lot, the actual offense is not very active in terms of the real-time element. I mean, as it is in Thousand Years Door.
It's usually pretty set in stone by the time you're going into the fight. Like your defensive element is a whole different thing, but like your offense is what you've done, what you've already set up, and there's like a whole skill or a whole system of learning new skills, that have all sorts of boons and effects and whatever else. And like we didn't get into that, but each character too has like their own very unique playstyle, which I really, really like. And you'll look at certain skills that you can learn and go, oh, that would synergize great with this character or that character, and there's a lot of flexibility, or you can build people mostly the same. There definitely is a ton of flexibility in Clair Obscur. I do want to stress that, but it definitely doesn't have the scalability, as I say, that Thousand Year Door has for its offense specifically.
Yeah, but defense is a slightly different story, because it is 2025. We live in the post-Sekiro world. And I mean, like, obviously the whole defense is very much inspired by Thousand Years Door. However, there's definitely a lot of Sekiro specifically in this one as well, I dare say. So the defense in this is completely different than the offense, which is during an enemy turn, they will do all the animations that you know from JRPGs and whatnot. They do their however many hit combos, their projectiles and whatnot. And early on, you get more options later, but early on you can either parry or dodge. And dodging is a little easier, and if you parry every hit in a combo, you get a counter instead, which is basically the risk reward thing. You can learn stuff by dodging easier because you die less because you get hit less. But if you do manage to parry at some point, you just get a bigger reward. Essentially, that's the idea. So every enemy's turn is very active on your end still. And there's like a real-time element. You can't pause during the enemy turns, actually, which is a bit annoying at some point. I don't really get why you can pause during your own turns. Like, okay, I wasn't pressing anything to begin with. But essentially, there's enemies which have very long chains. Sometimes they, especially early on, they just do 1 or 2 hits. There's like an enemy very early on that does a 4-hit combo, which is very long already for this early into the game. But that's like the general idea. So you have a bunch of defensive options, dodging being of course easier, but there's no blocking. So you have to time these regardless of what you do. You can't just go, well, I just take a bit less damage. You either dodge or parry, and dodging has more. It's like more active frames, and the recovery is shorter. So that's how it's generally speaking easier. And I mean, I think this is like an idea that if I say it like this, I think a lot of people can already imagine how this can lead to very wild boss fights, essentially. Like, based on this alone, even if the offense wasn't as, like, your own offense wasn't as involved as it actually is. And that's like the general idea of how the combat works.
What I find quite interesting too about the defensive system in this as well too, as you say, there is dodges versus parries. So like what the way it's set up, which I find it's a really, really great decision actually, is that when you dodge an attack, you can dodge an attack with perfect timing, and it'll say perfect. And what that is also telling you is that you're dodging that attack with the parry timing. So you can go down the road of less risk, dodge only, wait until you understand an enemy's patterns to the point where you're perfect dodging everything, and then literally just switch over to parrying, and you'll get the full reward. It tutorializes itself in that sort of way, which I find really interesting. And like, don't get me wrong, I've nothing against people that do like, I'm going to only parry and I'm going to do a full parry run. So like, people seem to be getting kind of weird about that shit online, but I've nothing against the premise of doing that. I think that's a fine. Like, one thing about Clair Obscur is it gives you a lot of freedom to play the game the way you like to play it. And that's the way some people like to play it, but it's really, really great, I think, and really smart to tutorialize that element. Like, going back to Thousand Year Door, there isn't anything like that in Thousand Year Door. Like, you either guard, and guarding's automatic, and you just take less damage, or you parry, and you just kind of have to feel it out. And I think it's great that there's kind of like an in-between there, where, you can teach yourself the parry timing, even if it's too intimidating for you. The game is constantly pushing you towards trying a parry, even if you're just taking advantage of the dodge mechanic. I do think, though, it does kind of lopside things a little bit, though, because even with dodges, if even you're not getting the counter attack, you're still nullifying all damage that comes your way. Whereas the guard in Paper Mario, you're still taking damage, so like it's pushing you harder towards parrying, I feel, in Paper Mario than it would be in Clair Obscur. And I guess it's lopsided also in the way that, don't get me wrong, this isn't something that enemies can do in Paper Mario either, but the enemies can't dodge your parry. So
they just eat your attacks.
Yeah, so when you have the ultimate solution and an easy solution to everything enemies does, and that means you are essentially quite powerful. But I think the game does throw enough tricks at you and stuff like that to make that not a boring experience. It is just like one of those weird game design considerations. Like, when you look at it, it's like, oh, I can actually just nullify everything. And like, true enough, like, you can full parry things well above your level too. But early on in the game, I ran into like a super boss that you shouldn't have been fighting at that point, really. And instead of parrying it, because it would have killed me in one hit, I just dodged everything. And it took like half an hour, but I beat it.
It definitely works.
It just works, So like, you wouldn't get away with doing something like that in Paper Mario. The enemy would just kill you. You would have to learn the perfect parry timing, which the game does let you off the hook for that if you don't want to do that. But, that's not better or worse. It's just different, I guess.
Yeah. And that's like the general idea of the combat. And then, of course, as you said earlier, you have up to 3 party members at once. There's a bunch of characters you can get, and they all have unique mechanics. There's like some slight archetypes, some like JRPG archetypes. Like, there's a very early, the first 3 characters you get, which is very early, is, well, of course, Gustav, who's like, it's like a warrior guy. He can hit relatively hard. He can take some damage. He has a bunch of buffs. You get Lune next, who's a mage who has offensive and defensive spells, and Mile, who's the angry teenager that you need in every JRPG, who one-shots things. So basically, like your assassin. That's like the first 3 you get very, very early on, and they're all in the intro. You all immediately recognize these as playable characters if you talk to them, and but they have stuff going beyond this. So Gustav has like a charging mechanic where the more hits or the more buffs he lands and whatnot, he can do stronger finishes, that kind of deal. And something I found really interesting, because you don't have an offensive and a defensive mage in this. You just have Lune as being both at the same time. And you don't actually need to spec her into defense either. You can just ignore all of that if you want to.
Yeah.
But essentially, she has like a mechanic where specific spells give you specific, they're called stains in this, but essentially specific buffs, and other spells get stronger than if you have specific buffs on you. It's like, so you're encouraged to find good rotations of spells that you can do during her turns to get the best out of it, essentially. And Mael, who's early on, we're going to talk about the rest way later, has a stance mechanic where she has 3 different stances, out of which one is kind of bad. The offensive stance
and one is ridiculous, and you want to be in it as much as possible.
Yeah, because it's a 200% damage boost, and just like a very, very slight, very like easy example that the game very clearly sets up for you is Maya can enter offensive stance by hitting a burning enemy. Lune can set enemies on fire.
Yep.
That's like you see the idea. Maya can do this herself as well, but you're encouraged to do stuff with these characters together. And this is like the easiest example that the game essentially hands you. There's a bit more complicated stuff later on, but that's how the game generally works.
Yeah, and like I think too, like you kind of touched on it earlier, it is quite well designed how every character kind of has like an end goal you're looking to reach in combat. It's not like like say Final Fantasy X, for example, you kind of go in Final Fantasy X and you got your set spells, like you got fire, you got some physical attacks, stuff like that. And you can't just do your things. You do the attacks you want to do, and you might do one of the overdrive super attacks or something like that. But in Clair Obscur, every character can self-contain, get themselves to their end goal, but also can help other characters along that. So as you say, Gustav has a charging mechanic, which does a lot of damage at the end. So it gives you a path to go down. You look at your abilities, start to go, how do I get to the end state as quickly and efficiently as possible? And as you say, you start looking at characters like Lune then, for example, say like, this spell I have for Lune consumes 2 fire charges, and I can build the fire charge by burning an enemy, which then allows Mael to go into her really, really good stance at the same time. You know what I mean? So you're getting the most out of all your characters, and probably like early on in the game, that system is really, really good. But once you start to realize that the very basics of how it wants you to play, like I think especially early on, you start really stomping enemies really bad, because even if you get that stuff off even halfway, most of the time you don't even get your full setup done. They just have already died. Especially if at any point Mael gets in the virtuoso stance, like it's just over. It's over. Like
she gets the damage cap very quickly,
and like that never really changes for the entire runtime of the game. But like I think you especially feel that early on. I think that you can just absolutely steamroll shit.
There has been one balance patch at this point of the recording which nerfed one of Mael's skills by I think 40%. It was very good, and the best part is it is still the strongest skill in the game.
Yeah. Like I'll not say what exactly happened or whatever, but I'll say very vaguely that at the end of the game I did a rebuild and one shot one of the hardest bosses in the game with it, still with that skill post nerf. And if that was the post nerf number, I just wonder what the pre nerf number was.
Yeah, I would have just uninstalled the boss from like everyone's game. Just remove it. It doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, no, like she's like clearly the assassin type, so lots of damage with if you do a little setup. But it is like relatively easy to get there, especially if you set up your characters correctly. Where like for example, Gustav has buffs. You do fire stuff as Lune, and then get into virtuous stance. As Mael, and there you go. Now the enemy is most likely dead in your next Mael turn.
Yeah, and like what's good about it too is that I think once you start realizing that there's this basic flow from their starting abilities, you start looking at their skill trees as well too, and start thinking, hold on, I could flow a different way. I could build, Lune and Gustav, they support Mael in a totally different way. And there is a great deal of flexibility on lots of things in the game like that. It's cool that there's several ways to do things. Like one critical path, I think, is plenty for a game of this scope and from like an indie studio for combat. But the fact that there is quite a lot of variation is really interesting, and it's all very well done. I tried a few builds by the time I was finished, and I was pretty satisfied with most of them. My last one, as I say, just one shots fucking everything. So I don't know, maybe that wrecks the enjoyment of the game just a little bit. But it was still fun to make.
Yeah, we will talk about the later stuff later on, but
for sure.
for now we keep it relatively spoiler free. I don't think there being a super boss in JRPG is a big spoiler. It is, like as you said. I mean, of course, it is French, but it does take so much inspiration from Gen 7 and RPGs which are inspired, JRPGs which are inspired by Gen 6 RPGs a lot, of course. So I mean, I think the main inspiration behind a lot of stuff is also FF8, which is a PS1 game. But so there's a lot of JRPG love in here. Essentially, the director talked about a lot of that in interviews and such, where he talked about basically every JRPG. He's played a lot of them. So I think you can see this essentially everywhere. There's basically a variation, a spin on not necessarily even a spin. Sometimes you just recognize things immediately, but I don't know. There's like a metal slime essentially. This game has its own version of a metal slime from Dragon Quest, or like others, which is also in a bunch of other JRPGs which I cannot think of on top of my head. But there's another thing that we haven't actually mentioned here, which plays into this, which is that this entire game from the very beginning is aggressively French.
Yeah, and that rules. That is actually awesome as hell. Like, maybe you've talked a lot about like Alan Wake, and Alan Wake 2 specifically, which came out a few years ago. And like one of the elements I really love about that is how they make a town in Alan Wake 2 that's Finnish in origin. It's like Finnish immigrants had come over to Washington State in America and basically made a community. And that gave Remedy Games then the opportunity to inject a lot of Finnish culture into Alan Wake 2, and a lot of that stuff is some of my favorite stuff in that game. I like games like movies and everything else tend to, when you get the more popular mainstream stuff, they all tend to kind of follow a certain language, even if it doesn't make sense, like very Americanized. Maybe certain tropes carry over or whatever else. And that's fair enough. Like, I mean, sometimes developers don't want to go outside their comfort zone and they don't want to talk about their own experiences in that sort of way or whatever. But it is super refreshing to see a different culture so heavily represented through a video game, and then a JRPG, like a French JRPG. It's like it sounds like not even where an origin of where it was made, but the tone is French. There's French music, there's French clothing. Like, it's got that. Like I was saying right away, it's like that movie Amelie. It's got French ennui to the tone of everything, and like even as the game kicks off, a lot of his Gustav talk. Is it Sophie the name of his girlfriend that gets Gamage?
Yeah, his ex.
All right, it was his ex. Sorry. But yeah, a lot of the story at the start of that is very much about love and unrequited love and all that, and like that's so French. It's so French cinema the way that's all presented, and it's done in a very adult, respectful way, and not like bug into the camera or like wink and nudge. It's very much its origins are in France, and it's very, 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 very apparent. It's actually that opening is so good. I kind of become disappointed by how that tone doesn't kind of stay. It doesn't.
It becomes less French.
I think it stays pretty French at elements, but it does become less French. But it's more like you don't really get a lot of games or JRPGs talking about love in an adult way. Where it is this unrequited love, and they're talking about how they never got the chance to have children and stuff like that. There's a very mature tone to it that doesn't necessarily last, but I digress anyway on that. But yeah, like stuff like that does come from like that French, I feel, origin developers, and looking to put the things that inspire them from their own culture into it.
Yeah, I think the general tone of the game not like at all times, but in a lot of places is like very clearly inspired by.
Yeah, sometimes they're just absolutely hitting you over the head with it. Like in the first area, also you fight a robotic mime. So like, and lots of people have seen these robotic mimes by now. They're like all over the internet because like like again, how many JRPGs can you fight a mime in? The only one I can think of is not even a JRPG. It's On the Reigns, like Precipice of Darkness, the Penny Arcade RPG game. which I played ages ago. You can fight mimes in that. And that's the only game I can think of. But
Penny Arcade featuring Tycho from Marathon.
Yeah, from Marathon, yeah. And the reward you get for fighting this mime, by the way, which is pretty difficult. It's like a parry tutorial early on in the game, essentially, is what it acts as. The reward for beating this mime is a costume called Baguette, which is just like the French onions around neck style, like striped top, bottoms, and then like a beret, and you get like a baguette that goes on your back as well. Like it's just they aren't being subtle about it, which is what I'll say.
I remember in the marketing lead up to the release of the game, they had something called the Baguette trailer, where all of the characters were wearing these outfits, and it was playing this was how they showcased the French cast for the first time as well. So, the game is in English and in French, depending on it's both on the disc or on the download version, depending on which you want to play. Generally speaking, I think it's like sometimes bosses and characters talk during fights, so it's sometimes a little hard to follow if you play in French and you don't speak French. But generally speaking, it's interesting. I mean, if you wanna play in the quote unquote original language, it's definitely there. But there's a lot of care that went into the English version, and there's a lot of big names here. Not in terms of just like generally famous people, but like very prolific voice actors. What I mean. I just wanted to say something about this mime earlier, which is really funny because when I start an action game, as I would, I'm not very good at it naturally. So if a game throws a hard challenge at me in like the first level, I usually just skip it, and then later on I come back to this and I'm like, why did I skip this? But at this moment where I fought the mime, I was just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And you look at it later, and it has like 2 different combos, and there's 3 and 4 hits or something like that. Yep. And I was just like, was I stupid or something? But no, it's just like a thing where I think if you don't get used to this very quickly, it can be a very hard fight. But I mean, it's like a little optional challenge on the side, so you can do it if you wanna.
Yeah, I think these are like sprinkled through the game in general. Not just they're like not just the mimes. There is more mimes, by the way. If you like fighting mimes, don't worry, this game has you covered. But like,
if you want baguettes for everyone, don't worry, you can get them.
There's a lot of enemies just off the critical path that usually could be classified as a super boss in a lot of other JRPGs, and like there usually is like 1 or 2 per area. Like there's quite a lot of them. And like I'm the opposite of you, where like if I see challenges like that, I will bang my head against the challenge until I figure it out. And at the start, when I fought the mime in Lumiere, I did just lock into the parry timing. Like I was one of the ones where, like, and as I say, like again, how the dodge tutorializes so well. I dodged all its stuff, realized it had like 3 combos, and then I just perfect parried it to death. And it served as a really, really, really nice tutorial for the people that wanted to stick there. You're already kind of a little bit ahead of the curve then as how parrying's going. And if you choose to skip it, you've not really missed anything. You could skip it if you want, or if you find that you're hitting a wall with it, that's fine too. I think they make it kind of imposing too. They do kind of want some players not to do it. And like if you do it, then you get a nice cosmetic. That's another thing too. Actually, is that you get cosmetic rewards a lot for fighting these harder challenges. They're usually not something like, you would get a typical JRPG. They're usually like a costume you can put on your character, which I find really, really cool. I think that's better than giving you sometimes like just a weapon that's like slightly different, unless it's got like an amazing ability or whatever. But allowing you to customize your characters like so deeply in that way through doing optional challenges is like a really, really nice reward for that you don't get a lot in games, I think.
Yeah. There's a lot of visual customization. Like you get different hairstyles, a lot of them. You get a lot of different costumes, and they are all very like in line with the game. You don't unlock like the random. I don't know. You don't get like a Jet Set Radio crossover costume or something. It's like all in one way or another contextualized within the game.
Yeah, for sure.
Just like yes, and let's just say we beat the mime, and then we just set off to go on our little expedition. So we get like this little tutorial at the start. A bunch of characters get introduced and whatnot, and then the expedition 33 starts. We're not gonna go over the plot point by point, but just like to give it like a general impression of where it goes, what it's like at the start. which is the expedition right at the start, not going great.
Nope.
I dare say. You get surprised by another man who is armed with a cane and starts killing people.
Yeah, and like the thing that strikes the characters right away too is that he's old, and you can't grow old here.
Yeah, he's not supposed to be old. Like, it doesn't work.
So that's already a really great mystery. That's like they land there, and an old guy starts killing them all. Like he's like,
yeah, you're like, wait a second.
And he's got like almost like, you know what I mean, like anime kind of villain energy, like Sephiroth or some shit. Like he's effortlessly mowing down this expedition.
Yeah, he walks like slowly out of the darkness with his cane and cuts off a guy's head instantly. That kind of stuff. You immediately there's like he moves and behaves like a JRPG villain, as you said, which isn't a bad thing, by the way. I don't mean that in a derogatory way. Yeah. But I mean, like, Gustav escapes naturally because he wouldn't be the main character otherwise. And then after that, you go through like you go through the Act 1 after this. Essentially, you find a bunch of characters one by one. We already talked about the first other two you find, and you do the JRPG things. You go into little dungeons, which aren't actually all that elaborate, to be honest. As you said, there's a lot of Gen 7 in here, so we have this mostly apparent linear path usually, with like little side rooms, which in this game actually works out somewhat well, because like not that it doesn't work in other games, but something that makes it work in this game in particular, in my opinion, is first of all you have what you mentioned earlier, these optional bosses on the side. Usually it can be harder versions of old enemies, it can be bosses that you will fight at some point later that you can fight early on already. It can also be completely unique bosses, and usually get cosmetics from them or some sort of items. I think this also uses a system which I think is also from Paper Mario, where you can equip trinkets called Pictos, and if you fight a bunch of battles while it's equipped, you can teach this trinket to other characters as well, like its effect, I mean.
Yeah, this is sort of similar to Paper Mario, because like they're called Pictos in Clair Obscur, and in Paper Mario they're called badges, and when you equip a badge or a Picto, they usually impart some effect. Like some might just give you more health, some make a counter attack, do more damage, etc., etc., etc. In Paper Mario, you can't teach them the badges like that. You can only change them, so you get more badge points, and you can put more elaborate combinations of badges on them. The way you can teach them to characters in Clair Obscur really reminds me of something like Final Fantasy 9. In which like you can get like items they equip on the characters, like gloves, boots, whatever, and they would all come with some sort of passive ability, like, oh, this one makes you dodge 50% more. And once you learn that off the boots by grinding XP for it, it took forever, you could have that permanently on the character while changing the item. So it's kind of like a mixture, I think, of the badge system and like some other JRPG systems. Again, like everything in Clair Obscur seems to have like inspiration from all these different JRPGs and sometimes other genres of games, but you can kind of really see them clearly if you know what you're looking for. Like I think a lot of people mistake the Clair Obscur battle system to be something entirely unique, but someone like me who's played kind of a lot of these, it's actually more like a best hits of like the mechanics that I really liked across a lot of games, along with streamlining someone, because as I say, they teach a Picto in Clair Obscur. You have to do 4 fights. It's just 4 fights. It takes no time at all. And then you know the skill forever across all your characters. In something like Final Fantasy 9, you had to grind like hell to get even one ability. I remember sitting in the world map grinding for an hour just to get a couple, and then I was just like, I ain't going to bother 100% in this aspect of it. But Clair Obscur is like really, really encouraging you to switch that stuff and teach yourself as much abilities as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, so what I was saying is earlier, basically you go through like these dungeons, you find some of this stuff. Something interesting, which is the game can't really run out of stuff to give you because of this Picto system, because all of these Pictos teaching them to other characters cost these Lumina points, what they're called. Yeah. And you can increase the Lumina points for every character with these items. And so the game can just, whenever it doesn't know what to give you, it can just give you more Lumina points, essentially. So exploration is always rewarded. you're never going to find something that is completely useless, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is a cool system. Like, there's normal levels as well. It goes up to 99. What a surprise! And you can learn new skills by leveling up, and you can Paper Mario-like distribute your own stats. So like I think each level gives you 3 points to spend on 5 different stats. And which is really funny because you see like this Dark Souls scaling. It is like
so again, it's like a best hits of a lot of things, right? So it's like it's taking that scaling element, which I've only really ever seen in Dark Souls, and put it into a JRPG, which that's cool. It's fine. And what I love too is the quality of life when you level up. It tells you which stat is currently affected by the scaling while you're leveling up, so you don't have to go, oh, what does Zweihander scale with? No, it is telling you right there on the screen. Which that's something that Dark Souls just steal back. That's excellent. Yeah. I like that element.
Yeah, I mean, you level strength in Dark Souls, of course.
Of course, like we never have to decide. Just
yeah, exactly.
All I ever look up is what the hard cap is for strength, so I know not to go over it.
Yeah, but essentially the game just tells you which stats you can level, and which is your currently equipped weapon scales with. There's also items to respec. You can't respec these points indefinitely, but you can do this on this screen by holding one button for like half a second, and you immediately get to respend all your points when you equip a new weapon, for example, that scales differently. Very, very easy. I have some problems with the UX in general, but the level up interface is not one of these. That one is, as you said, it's very easily read. All the skills, all the stats tell you exactly what they do, and if you spend points on them, you get a preview on how much they change literally everything that they affect. So like very easy to understand.
Yep.
And if you don't want to think about this at all, you literally just put it into the best stat in terms of offense, and that also always works.
Yeah,
so
I think that's like a slight shame to a certain extent too, because I think once you kind of realize that, like, that the scaling is like a no-brainer, especially very valuable way to level up your characters, it kind of takes all the decision making back out of it. It gives you all this decision, and then like when I was respecting later on, I was just going, okay, I'm just dump it all into the stuff at scaling because that's going to give me the maximum return.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those things that when you look beyond it just a bit, it kind of undermines itself. But it still reads very well, and it's pain free when you're playing the game and leveling. So like, no huge criticisms. That's more like an overall metatextual criticism of how it's handled. Yeah,
especially like a bit of a shame if you have a weapon that there's like an offensive stat that just gives you more damage. And if your weapon doesn't specifically scale with that, it still gets damage from it. So, but every weapon has 2 attributes it scales with. So if the 2 attributes aren't the offensive one, you get exactly enough points to max out 3 stats, then this is like a decision that's made for you. Essentially, you just put it. You can try to get to 100% crit, but you can also get this from other stuff, from Pictos and Luminas and whatnot, and your weapon perhaps as well, because weapons have unique effects as well. So there's as you said at the start, it looks like I get to make some decisions, and then later on you're like, not really. If you had a system that did all of this for you in terms of just giving you more offense, it would probably be the same towards the end, but at the start it's more interesting, I think.
Yeah.
Especially when all of your stats are low.
Yeah, like all of your time and efforts can be spent on your Picto/Lumina loadout. Like that's really where the real depth is. You start to realize.
And your build essentially.
Yeah. Like the level up screen is practically an afterthought, and that as long as you're putting the points into the things to scale, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah, and as you said, like the Lumina and Picto, which is the same thing. You can equip 3 of these, and then you can equip as many Luminas as you want, as long as they are unlocked. But it doesn't really matter. So these little Pictos, that they make a lot of your build because they have stuff like the game uses an action point system for where each character can get up to 9 action points, and all of their abilities take between 1 and 9. And base attack takes 0, and then you also get the shoot button, like in Persona, which takes 1 per shot, like in Persona 5, I mean. And I think in the Persona 3 remake, I'm not actually sure if that has
from the old SMT games as well.
Oh, you're right, yeah. But like the whole UI is very clear.
Oh, yeah.
Like the combat UI is very clearly Persona 5. You look at this and you're like, oh, I know where they got this from. Like the whole layout is literally Persona 5.
Yeah, I actually think the director came out, I think today, I think I seen an article and said that Persona 5 was a massive influence in the UI, and yeah, like of course.
Yeah, you can tell, yeah. And like the way it moves when you select one option, the camera moves, your character does a different pose. You're like, oh yeah, this is Persona 5. I get it.
Again, it's greatest hits, you know, like every
yeah, it works super well.
Great.
It works super well.
I kind of like that a lot. Yeah, I like that they're able to draw from so many places at once and make it work together. It definitely, like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. You don't like I'm not one of the people who believe that you need to be able to come up with a completely unique concept to be worthwhile. You just need to execute on the things you want to do really, really well, and to combine all these systems in the way they make it as open-ended and as entertaining as it is they play. I think it's a triumph. Like it's really good.
It's very thoughtfully combined. There isn't just like if you take things that you like, you might end up with something that doesn't really resemble anything anymore and that doesn't work well together. But there's a lot of thought put into most of these elements, and they work together mostly very well.
And like I think overall, that kind of speaks to like a greater point. I think I've been talking about this game, where I think people have like said, oh, like, you know, this is only maybe 30 people, which isn't true, by the way. It wasn't only 30.
Yeah, you can watch the credits and you see it's not 30.
Like, you know, all you have to do is make stuff really, really good, basically. But like when you look at Clair Obscur, I think there is a lot of flaws. Like you're talking about the environments earlier, which the environments are perfectly serviceable. But like what they always remind me of when I go through them is, I'm not sure how many student projects you've played. I've played quite a few because I was a few. Yeah, I was a computer game programming student for a while, and those types of Unreal made areas with not a lot of interaction, or, you know what I mean, like there's no column you can knock down to then become a bridge. That kind of stuff. There's nothing interactable. It's like baked in levels with and anything you can do, like, they transfer points, like there's like a grappling hook kind of thing. You get like a magic grappling hook. It transfers you from one point to the other. Nothing about the environment changes. There's no physics. There's none of that there. So like, what I think's great about that, because just 1 second ago I called the combat a triumph. It's obvious that when they had time to develop this stuff, because they're still quite a small team, don't get me wrong, it wasn't 30 people, there were more people involved in that, but still, is that they chose to not do that stuff with the environment, because that's the stuff that is common in AAA games now, and was even common in games like Lost Odyssey, for example. They chose to not dedicate the development time to that, and instead make something that works well enough and dedicate more development time to the stuff that matters, how the UI works, how the combat works, how the story works, you know, like all those other elements. And I don't think it would have worked if they did spread themselves that thin and focus on making the environments quote unquote better. And I think it's like a testament to what people will accept, because I think a lot of developers are scared that if they make games that sort of way, they're going to immediately turn people off. But I don't hear anyone speaking about these flaws, and then that's not because they're ignorant or whatever else. They're just not noticing the flaws among everything else that had all this time, love, care, and attention poured into it. I think it's really, really a testament to their ability to scale development correctly toward the things that matter.
Yeah, it's just like a thing, especially when people compare the game to AAA stuff, where they where I think there's a very valid comparisons to be made, especially with this focus, where like some elements stand out a lot, and then you're like, in, as you said, in a AAA game you would have way more interactive stuff, like even the column you can topple over, which is already something. But it's like I think like there's this weird comparison where people will post screenshots and be like, oh, this is like a team by 30 people, and well, first of all, that's wrong, of course. But you have like a screenshot of this environment, and there's like, as you said, there's like nothing really interactable. You can go left, right, middle, which is completely fine. It works super well.
It works great.
It works fine. But like I think you can tell like the difference here. If this was a game by way more people, let's just say the quality somehow stays the same, right?
Yeah.
Just a hypothetical scenario. There would be way more interactable stuff. The grappling hook and the climbing would be some actual mechanics, for example, and not just like the grappling hook is essentially a bridge.
Yes.
There's like nothing to this. At no point do you ever use this in any way outside of getting from A to B. And the climbing is exactly the same. The only thing the climbing and the grappling hook might not work in this way is when you don't notice that you can use them at that point.
Mm.
And outside of that, like it is not a freeform traversal or anything. It is literally just the path that the game has set up for you already. And I think if the game was like made by way more people, it would probably be different that way. I'm not even trying to say this is like better or worse or anything. No. But I think you can definitely tell this difference. And as you said, there's like a clear point to be made here, rather about what people will actually accept. Mm-hmm. That they don't necessarily. I'm not even saying this is like a bad thing in AAA games that feature it, but that they don't need all of these aspects necessarily. It doesn't even mean that it's like superfluous or whatnot, and there isn't the time and place for it. But that you can definitely make a game like this, which is very focused, I'd say, on a few specific things, and then you have like these almost like. This is not supposed to sound mean or anything, but you have like almost these stock assets.
Yeah, totally.
Like you have like an environment. You have the fantasy forest, and there's a few environments that are very unique. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes you're like, oh, it's like the fantasy area, and you can probably find this in like a UE5 library or something with like a little spin put on it usually. But the game does look pretty nice, I will say. When it doesn't beat you over the head with depth of field for some reason in some areas. But generally speaking, it does look nice. It does look very recognizable. I think like this, it generally has a lot of gold for one.
Yep. Gold and black is like a very key kind of color palette. Yeah.
Exactly, like very recognizable, like the uniforms on the characters alone, and then like a lot of the game just looks like that. But it's super interesting to me to see this actual comparison, because like I don't know what you want to call it, like AA or whatever, but there's definitely very big quote unquote sacrifices you make to make like a game like this on a relatively smaller budget with less people. Yeah, and I think this works very well in the game's favor.
I think they picked the right things.
They focused on the right things here. There's the things they focus on work very well. There's like I remember when Alan Wake 2, which we, as you said, we talked about a lot, when that came out, I was also like, you can just kind of tell this isn't like quote unquote proper AAA by like little things every now and then, sometimes in the environment, sometimes like your character moves a little weird in specific spots, and you're just like, oh yeah, I get it, this is like where the slightly smaller team came in essentially. But it doesn't really matter, because they have, as like in I think there's a lot of parallels you can actually draw between Alan Wake 2 and this, where they have like the completely correct focus to focus on the things that for the game they are trying to make are the most important ones.
Yeah, like you're not having like I saw that post recently on social media about GTA 6 having like bubbling beer in the bottle. Like, fine, it's a technological accomplishment, whatever else, but having a group of people sit down for a couple of weeks, program the bubbling of that beer and whatever else would have been something that would have been an entire waste of time on a project like Expedition 33.
Exactly.
And I think you don't always have to absolutely chase that cutting edge. And I would like more games that have the bravery to not and focus on what people would actually like to see a lot of times. And don't get me wrong, I know this does turn off a certain amount of audience, and probably a lot of game companies are chasing probably the more critical mass. But I think this proves it. Like, if you go on and you focus on the things that really, really matter, people won't even talk about that stuff. Like, I remember in the first area of the game, there's like a waterfall that looks terrible. Like, I actually started...
I took a video of it and posted it, remember?
It looks awful, but, like, no... Yeah. And not that they should speak about this, but, like...
Yeah, no.
That wouldn't have flown in a Final Fantasy, for example. That would have been absolutely redone. There's no chance. Like, one thing I would say, though, is that And again, what I said about the environments being like student project-y wasn't supposed to be an insult, because like I think the way they've actually handled it, doled out like loot and findables in the area, super bosses, enemies, all placements and stuff like that, and some really really nice like parts where it's obvious that was concept art recreated. I think all those effects are really 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 good. And the one thing that actually makes me wish they just went that step further and did was made it a fixed camera angle game. And you know me and fixed camera angles, I'm like the apologist. People hate them, whatever else. But like a lot of parts of like Final Fantasy X, for example, had fixed camera angles, and I think that framed the scenes in it really, really, really well. And I think it would have pushed it over the edge for me from looking like, again, as I say, a student project with all the love in the world, to giving me like the director's view, like make me see the angle you want me to see, that clear piece of concept art from that kind of stuff. And there is actually certain areas in the game that does force you into, if you've noticed.
I was just thinking of that.
It's very few, but there's like 2 or 3. And when I came across it, I was thinking this the whole time, I was thinking this would be so much better if it was fixed camera angle, which is what I think about every game, obviously. But like,
naturally.
Yeah, but when I came to those areas, I was like, there it is, man, and it controls fine. It controls fine.
I don't want to leave this room.
Never actually beat the game. I just hung around there. Yeah, but like,
like very early on, you find one single room where it's like that, and you're just like, what game?
Yeah, but like I think, and another thing too is that there's no minimap in the game. I consider that like a bigger flaw. Potentially, because
I agree.
Especially as the maps start to get a bit bigger, you start to lose your way, and there's kind of a lot of samey environments because they didn't spend all the time in the world in all these environments. Some of them look better than others, I'd say. And a minimap would have really helped, but then again, like the time spent programming that stuff, and then testing it and making all the layouts look right and make sure they match up 1-to-1. Do you want to display enemies on there? Do you want to display items on there?
Yeah.
Zoom levels, all sorts of shit. Like maybe that time wouldn't have been better spent on a minimap, but I do feel the loss of that. But all this to say that I think how they scaled the development of this game is excellent, and it shows what people will put up with. Because despite all these flaws, like as we said at the very top, I still think the game's excellent. But I think
definitely.
I think it's worth pointing these things out, because there's always definitely room for improvement.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's naturally, because it's an internet thing, so it's all or nothing. So naturally, like a lot of the discourse around the game is rightfully very positive, but like it does get a little
very anti-JRPG for some reason.
Yeah, it's like a little too much. Like the whole, both in terms of how high quality the game is, because I do think it's very, very good. That's not what I mean, but like generally speaking, there's like a lot of praise for basically everything, and like no talk about the flaws, which is kind of weird. But as you said, this is like this other thing you mentioned was this anti-JRPG attitude, which is I was thinking when we were talking about recording an episode if I even want to talk about this, because I think this is like not really worth bringing up, because you played the game and you're like, oh yeah, it's a JRPG. They love JRPGs, but it is like so prevalent in the discourse that I do think it's like we need to at least mention it and like maybe spend a few minutes on it, because it is really weird. Where like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, finally they make like a turn-based game that's like not like the JRPGs, which is not weird, and you aren't playing as like a bunch of teenagers in a school saving the world, fighting God or some shit like that.
Like literally, and, like 3 games recently that have been like that.
Yeah, like the school thing in particular always weirds me out a bit, because Persona is the school one, and then you have like I know sometimes every now and then you have like little like smaller JRPGs that people don't even know, like the first and the third Trails of Cold Steel, which are also set in a school, for example, or like
Shin Megami Tensei.
I mean. Yeah, or like right now, of course, 100 Line.
Oh yeah,
which isn't like entirely like that, but it is also like a military academy and whatnot.
If you want to extrapolate that too, you could say thingy. Oh, on the left of my head. Fire Emblem, 3 Houses. That's set.
Yeah, exactly. 3 Houses. Yeah. And which is, mind you, which is like a game mostly about war, but it is also set at a school.
Yeah, and it's very much about talking about your bozo friends, and that's a certain tone, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Like, I like the Persona games; they're cool, whatever, man.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's a good stick to beat this game or other games with on behalf of this game.
Yeah, exactly. Like this isn't. I think it's weird to like weaponize this game against a specific JRPGs, especially because a lot of the things people say are just like made up. This is like straight up not true. When people say like yes, I do agree. Generally speaking, JRPG characters tend to be younger. I mean, we have a 16-year-old main character in this game as well. It's like we're gonna have
they just gloss over that one, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Who does like 1 billion damage. By the way, just on a side note, Mel, like a 16-year-old, comes along because she wants or the Gamache to stop. Like so, like usually it's like the oldest people, but you can actually come along as well if you want to, if you're younger.
Yeah.
But the school thing comes up a lot, which I think is very weird because it's not actually that prevalent in JRPGs, and I mean the saving the world, fighting God, whatnot. We're not gonna get into the plot of later plot of this game for now. It's not exactly that, but there's like obviously there's twists.
Yeah,
it's a long and pretty good video game story. There's some twists to it. I mean, like the appearance of this older character you mentioned earlier is like already your first big hint that something is very wrong.
Yeah, it should immediately raise an eyebrow. And like another criticism I see people, and we did touch on this already a little bit earlier, was when people are saying, "Oh, well, it's the first JRPG I've ever played that doesn't have all this cringe anime shit in it," and it's like, bro, do you think this isn't anime as fuck? Like, are you actually fucking blind? Like, this is like when people say Metal Gear Solid isn't anime, and you look at them, you're like,
yeah,
what? Like, just because they aren't throwing laser beams and stuff, like, it is literally the most anime shit ever. And like
the beach fight,
yeah, like, you have old man Sephiroth,
like the most anime,
age walking around, Sword Art Online style. You know what I mean? Like fucking like blasting guys away, and like as you say, you have the 16-year-old that does 1 billion damage, and she's like the coolest, most capable 16-year-old ever. You know?
Yeah.
So many elements are so anime, like especially like not even just all the attack animations. They're like raising their fist to the air and they're calling out their move names and stuff like. Yeah, how do they spell this out for you? Like just because they don't have big anime eyes, I guess it's like a realistic art style. They're completely fooled. But that's like all it takes apparently, because Metal Gear had this exact same thing where people were saying this isn't anime, and it's like it's anime as fuck, bro.
Yeah, definitely. Like, as you said, like animations and whatnot. There's like, I don't even know. Like, I think maybe people get like fooled a little by the aesthetic, because it does, as I said, it looks like a Western fantasy game, you know. And then like you put these anime characters in terms of not necessarily personality, like they aren't like the archetypes, you know, from your generic anime. That's not what I mean. And I specifically don't mean like JRPG archetypes, because especially in like recent ones, they have been like the recent big ones, because I think people are just mad at Final Fantasy not being turn-based. I don't know. But like,
well, it's fine, because this game isn't properly turn-based either. Because people keep saying this shit, and it's like, and Final Fantasy as well hasn't been turn-based since like 2?
Yeah, 10 was 3? The last actually turn-based one. Yeah, like 10 is turn-based.
Oh yeah, sorry, I meant like historically, but yeah, 10 was a pure turn-based Final Fantasy. But like before that, they were doing active time battle, which isn't turn-based. I know it takes place in turns, but enemies can like defend between turns depending on their ATB bar and stuff filling up. So that wasn't turn-based. Like this has been something that Final Fantasy has been chasing since the start. So you saying like, exactly, it's like the classics, like 7. Oh, you mean the ones not properly turn-based? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Like this is like more turn-based than FF4, for example. Like it is still not exactly turn-based, because you have to do something during enemy turns. So yeah, I think
you can steal enemy turns. So that basically means it isn't turn-based in a way. It's turn-based.
It's Monster Hunter.
Yeah, an enemy will act, but you can entirely nullify what that enemy is about to do. Like nullify it with no exceptions and no setup. All you have to do is press the right timing.
Yeah, and no, I think like this whole JRPG comparison criticism is super weird, especially when you look at the game and you're like, oh no, this is so clearly inspired. This is so clearly in love with JRPGs. That I think it is. That's why I mean, I don't think this is. At first I didn't think this was worth bringing up, because it is so obvious, but it is such like a big point of discussion right now that I do think that like I think people who don't see this they just don't play JRPGs. Like you cannot not see this. It's impossible.
Like I think like it's like almost like two sides of the same coin, right? Like we were talking about before about how people misattribute how focused the development was to these guys being savants and just managing to make a AAA quality game, which isn't AAA quality with only 33 people. And then the other side is people saying it's good because it's not like JRPGs, or it's taking the element,
like it's inspiration.
Yeah. Like it's not anime, or it's not like JRPGs, even though like it plays like an idealistic JRPG in a lot of people's minds. It's very confused, but it all comes from the same weird place, I think, of just I don't know if it is just like online discourse about stuff, but maybe people trying to distill points down in the most simple ways possible. But like reality is way more complex than that, and like what they've accomplished is way more interesting than you boiling it down to this is like a JRPG without the anime cringe. It's like, no, that's not, one, it's not true, and two, they're doing something way better than that, you know?
Yeah, like and they do approach a lot of stuff differently too. Like a lot of the characters are like very. They have personalities that you normally wouldn't find like this in an anime game. Like as I said earlier, I think especially mainline FF has been getting pretty nuanced regarding character writing and such for the main characters. But like in a lot of JRPG or like even just Japanese games, which as you know, I love Japanese games, but a lot of like character writing is inspired by theater which works, Japanese theater I should say, which works based on archetypes, which isn't really criticism. This is more like a stupid observation, because a lot of people apparently can't do that. So like a lot of character writing in a lot of JRPGs tends to happen within archetypes, which again not necessarily bad, but Clair Obscur doesn't really adhere to this, and the characters, in my opinion, are pretty good for the most part.
I think they're pretty excellent, especially in the early stages.
Yeah, there's like one or two exceptions, and which aren't even bad, which just don't stand out, which is their problem then, because the other characters are so good.
Yeah,
and the writing, once again, very very human. Essentially, there's like this is like an important thing, because when I say this is like these are like realistically written characters, these are like seriously written characters. I don't mean that this is a gloom and doom game. The tone isn't all about how everything is serious and everyone is going to die. It does have like a room for whimsy, essentially, which is also where I would draw the very very obvious comparison to Final Fantasy, because characters in those games tend to be like that as well, where like everything is kind of going wrong, but and they're not having a good time generally speaking, but they do still find some joy somewhere. And the entire like Clair Obscur has like very serious character writing for the biggest part, but it isn't drab in its character writing. It has very believable characters, like you know what, it's a very nice word, and I rarely get to say this because we usually record in German, but there's like a very high degree of verisimilitude. Essentially, these characters act like exactly like I would expect them to act, and this does include making jokes at times, and it does include doing some sillier stuff even, and there's like a very specific moment in the game, which I'm just not gonna mention specifically, but like something very sad happens, and immediately after you can play a shitty mini game to unlock like a stupid beach outfit, which also looks aggressively French once again. This isn't criticism, mind you, because it sounds kind of like, I'm not trying to say this game is at odds with its own tone. It's the opposite. I think it works super well, and this is like a normal Japanese thing in a lot of Japanese games and anime and movies, where these two serious and comedic tones absolutely do not clash with each other, and they can both be in there at the same time, essentially. And the game Clair Obscur does this as well.
Yeah, like the comedic tone definitely coexists a lot better. And it's a very funny game. There's sometimes, like as you say, like jokes that come up from very serious moments from characters. You know, maybe a bit of snark when something serious is going on or whatever. But then you have stuff like you say that, like the characters surprise you sometimes too. Like there's a part early on, I forget exactly why, but Gustav snaps, I think, after all the guys on the beach are killed. Yeah, and basically shouts at Lune, then later apologizes. But it's like that moment, the snapping, is not something you see very often. And characters licking their wounds from it. It's usually a bit more trite, a little bit more anime, I'd say, as an actual criticism.
Yeah.
But like it can be fine or whatever else. That's one of the reasons why this game isn't good, is because it isn't anime, as we discussed. But like also the comedic characters like interweave pretty naturally into the cast as well too. So like you were talking about SKA, which is a character
I mentioned him earlier.
Yeah, it's like he is basically the comic relief, but unlike being like a Teddy or whatever from like Persona 4, who kind of just like he chews the scenery a bit and he interrupts every conversation. He's like a naturally comedic, whimsy, godlike being, and he's kind of just doing his own thing, and something serious is happening, he'll do something goofy or say something goofy, but that's just him. It doesn't clash against the tone, it doesn't do whatever. It's just the very nature of that character, and that seems to be kind of like the overall how it's presented in Clair Obscur.
Yeah, exactly. And SK is very good.
SK is great.
People are all in love with him and his neighbor Francois, who's like easily the best character.
I like Francois. Is my favorite in the game. Yeah, get off my lawn.
Yeah. That's supposed to be me.
And he's got that. What is his ice attack called? Like the strongest ice attack ever? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Yeah, exactly. And it hits you, and it hits hard as hell. And you're like, oh my god.
Yeah. It is the strongest ice attack. He was not kidding.
He was not lying.
No, just like there can be a lot of this silly stuff, but then you also like in the same moment you walk around and your character's having a breakdown because they realize that wherever they go, everyone's always dying. Like they see so many corpses of previous expeditions and whatnot. So like that's it's like a very serious word, but it does not. It definitely has a lot of humor to it as well.
Yeah.
It's never like dry, drab, or like too one note, I guess.
Yeah, and like their objective is very serious and what they have to do, which is to try and get to the paintress and stop the gommage being a thing. But along the way, them having those moments and all, like you can sense those moments raise their morale, and there's a lot of stuff that happens around the camp and all, where they're talking with each other and fighting each other. And all those moments are moments where you can feel themselves, like, like as that was a subtitle for Tactics Ogre, let us cling together. It's like that kind of vibe. It's like they're all kind of hanging on, kind of, if you didn't laugh, you'd cry, kind of thing. So
yeah, exactly. And they try to push each other up a little, and it doesn't always work, but they are going through stuff, but they're making it somehow. You also meet naturally you do meet a bunch of weird scribblers at some point because it's a JRPG, the gestures is what they're called. They're like these weird little tribal dudes. They're like
overall like my favorite thing in the game, like because there's no like specific gestural character I like, because they're all kind of the same thing. They're like little puppets basically that have been like animated.
Yeah, it's like wooden puppets.
Yeah, but they have like little masks too, and you know me and my mask love, you know what I mean, being Dr. Shy Guy being my username for the reason like I like little masked bozos, and the moment I saw that they had masked bozos in this, I was like, hell yes, I'm in. But like they're also very, very funny, very, very comedic. You fight a lot of those guys too, and they have big war machines and stuff. And the war machines are like ramshackle pieces of shit that you can like break apart.
Like you can break the arms apart and like the whatever, and they explode at the end. Like when they die, they just fucking blow up.
Yeah, they blow up, and they force you to either dodge or parry them at the end. So like it has that little jab right at the end, because that's their whole character archetype, that they're little mischievous bozos, which I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, they make you fight in the stupid arena and whatnot. And they're great. They're like scattered through the entire game. You can find little ones. You can talk to a bunch of other ones. They're like essentially like these inhabitants of this world that are also like good at fighting and also very stupid and good at breakdancing for some reason.
Yeah, but that's a surprise. But
and they're like the merchants. All the merchants you find, it is like very once again very JRPG. You can go somewhere and there will be a merchant there being like, oh, I wonder why no one's buying my stuff. Actually, you know what? That's just Dark Souls.
That's true.
You might go to like the erupting volcano, and there's a merchant next to it being like, oh, no one buys my items. I wonder why, my friend.
Yeah, except I guess in the case of Clair Obscur, they went, I guess, that step further to explain that this group of people aren't the smartest in the world. So they
legit don't get it.
They're like, oh, where's no one buying my stuff? And they're like in the cloud city above the sky or something. It's like, well, I can think of a few reasons.
They're like live right next to the Death Dragon.
Yeah, exactly. What I find really cool about it too is you're saying about the merchants as well too. They're all gestrels in this game, or gestrels, and you can challenge all of them to a fight, or most of them to a fight. And if you defeat them in single combat, then you get more stuff from the shop. And usually at the point you come to these gestrels, like they usually represent pretty stuffed challenges as part of the game. So again, it's that cycle of, here's like another type of super boss you can do, and you'll get a pretty, usually like the stuff that unlocks in the shop, it's usually really cool. So you'll usually get like a pretty good reward for it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. And you can get you can also get like a little gauge on how well equipped you're probably for the rest of this area.
Yeah.
It's like interesting. It's a very, very, very cool mechanic. And they do sell a bunch of cool stuff. They sell cosmetics, they sell pictures, they sell weapons. Something very cool about weapons is that every weapon comes with up to 3... Well, almost every weapon comes with 3 unique bonuses that you unlock as you level it up. And they can be like a very... Like the first one tends to be a little more minor, and then they get game-changing as it goes on. For example... just like, I don't want to go into detail on a bunch of them because they are very, very strong at times. But there's like damage bonuses naturally. There's one, for example, which I think is like one that makes a lot of sense to a lot of people instantly, which makes Lune start with a specific stain already.
Yeah.
So you can go way faster into specific other spells. That's the idea essentially. So you find something that works for you, do your own rotation. The game does have a system where, in case you're not paying attention, when an ability has a special kind of thing it can afflict, or like a special condition, the ability will be highlighted in your ability screen. So the game is actually telling you this ability will get its bonus. So if you aren't all about planning it, sometimes you can let the game take over a little. And like this doesn't work 100% because it doesn't tell you what to do at all times. Yeah. It's literally just telling you have met the condition for this attack to get its bonus effect. It's the idea, and so like it makes it like a little easier at times. Even though if you want to do something very planned through, you can't rely on that. But yeah, no, like this is like how the character building works. Where like the level, as you said, is actually very unimportant. More important is the weapon you have for what effects it gives you, the luminas you have, and which 6 spells you can equip. That's like how your character build works essentially. Yeah, and as I was saying earlier, in Act 1 you just kind of go through this in like a mostly linear fashion, to be honest. There's like at some point you get like a little overworld, and the very depth of fieldy overworld.
Yeah.
And you get to run around on it like once again a very JRPG-ish way, where your character is gigantic compared to everything else because it's an overworld. And you do like little dungeons and whatnot, and the whole Act 1, it does have side challenges. You can go to other places, but it is, generally speaking, somewhat limited until you get to the second act.
Yeah.
Where, like, for example, Eskia gets more abilities. Eskia is also your mount on the overworld because he's a fast guy. And then he gets, like, swimming, he can go through places, blah, 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 and so on. You get the idea.
Yeah.
And so the game opens up way more in Act 2, essentially. But, generally speaking, like, this Act 1, this isn't like to say this is, like, linearity, not a bad thing, once again. But yeah, this Act 1 I think is generally speaking very high quality. I think this is not necessarily, I'm not saying this is like my favorite part of the game, but I think there's like no point in Act 1 where the game ever feels like it's not well balanced and well like executed, and I think at some points it loses a bit of that. But especially in Act 1, this is like a very, very focused experience, very planned through. It does constantly introduce cool new concepts, characters, mechanics, and whatnot. And the whole of Act 1 is very, very high quality. The Gustav, by the way, voiced by what's his name? Is it Charlie Cox?
Charlie Cox, yes. Daredevil.
Charlie Cox, yeah, exactly. Then
he's very good.
I don't. Yeah. He's naturally like he's amazing at what he does. We have Maya as Jennifer English, I think. That's the other way around. Jennifer English as Maya.
Is that Shadowheart?
A Shadowheart in Baldur's Gate 3, and in like one of these up and coming voice actors who kind of sound like they've always been there.
Yeah, for sure.
And, so like this is like very high quality voice acting here. We have a bunch of voice actors later on who are really good. The weird old man we meet at the beach is voiced by Andy Serkis, if I recall correctly. Yep. So like very good actors, very good voice actors here in particular too, because like especially when you go with movie actors, sometimes the voice acting is a little bit weird. Yeah, but they're doing a great job here. Everyone is acting this really well. Another thing that I also want to mention before we actually move on into a more spoilery section is that the game has very, very good music.
Oh, that's probably one of the biggest surprises of all, I'd say. How good the OST is, yeah.
The once again, very JRPG-ish in a lot of ways. There's some overworld themes where I was like, oh, this could be a Nier or something like that, or like in an FF game as well, which, I mean, it speaks for itself, really, both of these. Every area has new combat music. There's a lot of unique boss themes. They do share some as well, but there's a lot of unique ones. It's like 3 discs or something.
It's crazy. It's crazy because like a game of this scale, again, it's one of those things where I would have accepted totally fine. Like one of my favorite JRPGs, like Final Fantasy VII, that has overworld theme, and then the fight theme, and then the boss fight theme, and that doesn't change that often. This game has so much variety in the soundtrack. I'd have been totally fine if it was just because the music's so good. If it was just one of the very, very good battle themes that we already hear in it, but it changes every area, and then some bosses have some truly, truly incredible battle themes. Like I think it's in the Flying Waters area, and it's that song. Is it the Rain Above the Ground? Is it that one? Where it's like
exactly.
Up until now, the soundtrack's been kind of very French, sometimes a little bit down-noted, like some, as you say, nearish sounding songs. And then this song blasts
like
in.
Very
fantasy. And this song blasts in, then it hits you with like a Street Fighter, like techno song. And it's oh my god, it's so sick. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Like there's just like one of the boss fights they showed like pre-release was like one of their marketing things where they were like, here's some interesting stuff going on. Like it's very, very cool. And when you get to the gestures, you get a lot of this weirder music as well, which is like a little more electronic, generally speaking. I almost wish the game had more electronic stuff, to be honest. I think sometimes it's like there's like 1 or 2 tracks where I'm like, this is like almost my favorite track if there was like a little more to it, a little more electronic even.
Totally.
Because they have very good vocals. They have like 3 vocalists, one of them being Bury the Lights Victor Victor Borba is his name, right? Is it Orba? No, it's Borba.
It's
right?
Borba, I believe. Yeah.
The vocalist on Bury the Light from DMC5, and the other 2, which I sadly don't actually recognize, but they're like, I think, French vocalists.
Yeah.
Like very good vocals here, 3 different ones, and cool instrumentation as well. There's like a lot of, I mean, like generally speaking, it's roughly what you expect in terms of instruments. There's like usually no big orchestra, but there's a choir and different individual orchestra instruments a lot of the time. And then as you said, then you get to this one boss and it suddenly hits
blows
you.
Open,
with this Street Fighter sounding theme, which is super cool.
And like another thing, I think like it's really, really good and it really stuck with me, especially like after like finishing the game, coming away from the game, and then like re-listening to the soundtrack and stuff like that. It's like a certain JRPG melodies and stuff like that, especially that really, really stick with you because of how they reflect the story or the tone and whatever else. And like for me, like one of the bigger ones would be like To Xanargan from Final Fantasy X. Which is, that's the opening theme song, essentially. That is a motif that's played throughout the whole game. It's also when Titus finds out that Yuna is becoming a summoner to go fight Sin to die, essentially. It's the song that plays during that. They play a super emotional version of it. So it's like it's the one that stays with you the whole way. And the title song in this game is called Alicia. And that song has this, like, to me, it hits the same like emotional core as something like a Two Xanarkin does. It plays again in all of the important scenes. It's a song back with piano too, and the first verse it's like a soft piano, and then it does the very classic Nomura thing where in the second verse the piano is like getting hit harder. You know, the notes are sharper to like represent like a heightened, elevated emotional state. It hits all the exact same notes as me, but also has a very, very French vocalist or vocalization over the top of it. So it's like it's like that but French, and I really dig that. And it's a great song in its own right. But then you go from this Two Xanarkin type song straight into fucking, as I say, Street Fighter techno. You know, and plenty of other like rock inspired, and like it's a very surprisingly expansive OST. And full credit to SoundCloud for delivering on that one.
For SoundCloud on the soundtrack and Reddit on the writing. Good job.
Finally, one banger. I just always think about how we were talking about this the other day, and we called him SoundCloud, like the name Claude.
Yeah, that's the French guy. That's the composer.
Mr. SoundCloud, you've done it again.
Good job.
Just to finish off, sorry, on because
go ahead,
you were saying about Act 1, and I just want to just put my thoughts in very quickly, is that I totally actually agree with what you mean about Act 1 being like not necessarily a favorite part of the game, but where things like felt really strong. For me,
very focused.
For me, it's a part I felt definitely the most immersed. I thought as they were peeling apart the story of this world, doling out the information the way they were with character moments and stuff like that, finding out who these characters really were beneath the surface a little bit, you know what I mean? Because we only really got like the layer 1, and there's layers underneath that, and some of the mysteries they're throwing at you. Act 1 was like, for me, I wouldn't again say it was the best one, but I felt the most into the game. I was like, I am totally, there's no room around me. I'm just looking at my screen. I'm just so into this right now. And I don't think necessarily the rest of it quite hits that same note for me. But not that it's bad or anything. I just think it's a very strong opening. It's an excellent opening.
For sure.
Love Act 1.
That act to be banging. Like and generally speaking, like, I mean, as we have said earlier, but there's like a very, very very surefire recommendation. If you like care for any of these elements, you should just go buy this game, honestly. Like, you will enjoy it. I think it's like $50 or €50 rather.
It's worth every penny.
It is very, very, very good. It has a lot of stuff in it, a lot of, like, both in terms of density, story, characters, there's a lot of stuff to do and whatnot. Just very high quality, very good game, which is something I wanted to say before we like move on a little, because I do want to get like a little impression, like a general impression thing out of the way. So like, because if we get into more spoilery parts, so people who do not want to hear all that because they want to buy the game, which they absolutely should.
Do not listen to this conversation after this without playing the game. Go.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're not going to go through the plot one by one because it's boring. You can just read that.
But there's moments you're definitely going to.
We're just going to talk about everything. Everything else.
No, there's a couple of like key like story moments I assume we're going to touch on a bit, like, you know, and like
we have to.
Those are ones that are best experienced alone, and
exactly.
Play the damn game, and like as you say, like it's not a budget game, but it's a game that's below what would be considered the full price of games now. And I do feel that, you know, that's justified from, as we said, there is some rough edges to this game, but also the quality that's there is quality surpassing some JRPGs that I've played. So like, it's absolutely worth the price of entry. It's one of the best JRPGs that have come out recently. So if you are a fan of the genre at all, do give it a look.
Yeah, and if you like Sekiro, play it as well.
Yeah, if you actually are just like, honestly, if you just get that part of your mind that just likes parrying and learning timings and stuff like that is in there, and it's a viable. You can play the game without leveling up your health or defense or any element of that whatsoever, and you can say, I'm going to parry the world, and that's a viable playstyle.
It's very fun.
And if you're one of those kind of people that like the idea of doing that, but you want like a lot of variety, also, as we said, the amount of weird, whack-ass combinations you can make with Pictos is pretty insane. And I think it's really telling. Like I think I made like about 2 or 3 builds, and you made like 1, did you? And like all of those were different. We
completely different ways of tackling like super bosses and whatnot.
Yeah, we had different ideas of what to do with that. So like if you're one for looking at all these options and trying to think of a through line and expressing yourself through that, or if you're the kind of person that just likes to take a game and break it over your knee, then like this has all that. You know, it's great. It's a good time. You will find that time. And like me personally, like we were talking about the Lumina points earlier. I didn't spend any Lumina points when I played this game.
You want to talk about upgrading weapons?
Oh my! I didn't upgrade a weapon until way later. We'll talk about that later on. But I didn't use any Lumina points because I was happy with the level of challenge the game was giving me, and I could see myself if I could equip those extra Luminas from using those points. I think I would be a bit too powerful because, like I said earlier on, bosses or enemies early on in the game don't tend to survive very well if you get your shit going, and that's it. So I was pretty happy with struggling a little bit, and like I self-regulated that. I didn't have to do that. I could have immediately did something else, and that's the kind of flexibility that I love in games, and especially JRPGs, in which your interaction is usually going to a menu and pressing a button, right? So you have to have some other way to express yourself through that, and then this game has a very, very in-depth system for you to do that. Sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Like, as you said, like, builds can be completely different on individual characters.
All right.
You go, like, for completely different setups. Yeah, so now if you don't care for spoilers, you have to leave now. Goodbye. Buy the game. Thanks for listening and all that.
Yeah, just
download the episode so we get a number on the screen.
Yeah.
So I get more review copies. Thank you.
Oh, definitely.
Very cool.
And just to interrupt quickly, I'm just going to go to the bathroom very quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this is definitely going on longer than expected.
I'm not gonna make a break here. I'll just talk about something else.
Oh yeah. You're back.
Yeah. So, but by the way, you can find Doc on Twitter and I think on Blue Sky.
Don't advertise that shit, bro. I heard that as I was leaving the room there. Do not follow me.
Don't leave him alone.
No. Don't follow me.
Like, you can actually find him is in our Resident Evil 2 remake episode and our DMC 5 episode, and there's which I also talked about in a different episode here where I talked about the DMC anime very briefly. There's a talk by him and D Cosmic, who was also here to talk about Dynasty Warriors Origins with me, about the DMC anime, which is like 4 hours or something. If you're interested in that, the Netflix anime, I mean, the Adi Shankar one. So that's like interesting stuff if you want to hear Doc elsewhere. Cool stuff. So we are gonna once Doc's back, we're gonna move on to Act 2 and Act 3. Surprise! This has 3 acts. It is a story. Would have needed 5 acts to be a proper Japanese story, I guess. But essentially, we're just gonna not move through the game in order. We're gonna talk about everything. So if you, the listener, don't want any sort of spoilers, then I suggest you just move on. We have like definitely this is a recommendation for the game. Just buy it. Honestly, it's very good. It is just really good. I don't know if it's like my favorite game this year, but it is up there. It's like an easy top 3 to top 5 thing. Because ratings are stupid. We're not doing ratings here. So instead, we just say that definitely get this game from which is also like a reason why I got Doc here, because he plays a lot of JRPGs and played a lot of JRPGs in the past, a lot of old ones. And there's this recommendation from both of us, because I do think people here kind of can gauge my taste somewhat well, at least based on the games I talk about, especially Sekiro, which is like a big influence in this as well, in one or another way that I think should have been maybe adapted a little bit better than they have, but we'll get to that when we get there.
Sekiro's trash, by the way. Don't play that game.
Yeah, don't play that. Doc never got past the first boss. Nah, just kidding. That's not true.
That's not true. I got the Genichiro and then I went, fuck this.
Fuck this Japanese, man. I'm going to play a French game.
This game is some cringe in anime. Time to play a French game.
So with that, we're going to move on to Act 2 and Act 3. Yeah. I hope you're gone now, because we will talk spoilers now. Goodbye. So Act 1 ends on a pretty big note, which is the other guy, the old guy, showing up again.
Yeah.
And spontaneously killing Gustav.
This moment sucks, man. Gustav.
Yeah, no, it's like there's like a thing here which is interesting. Gustav has like a big skill tree, but you don't see most of his skills, and you kind of at this point you're kind of like, this guy's gonna unlock something new.
Yeah, totally.
You get the like his own mechanic is like a little less involved than everyone else. You have another character called Seal, who is way more involved, Lune and Mile as well. And Gustav's like a little simple, like it works. He has like one of the coolest finishers really with his, for those who come after, finisher thingy. But you're like, he's gonna get something. Yeah, he's gonna get replaced is what he is. He's gonna fucking die.
And like, like Gustav's such a, like, I think a nice character. Like obviously we didn't go beat by beat or whatever else, but like he's got this real genuine thirst for knowledge, love for the people around him. He's a very mature guy as well too. He's not like, a typical shonen kind of protagonist or anything like that. It really blindsides you, honestly. Like, and I usually don't get that shocked by character deaths and stuff, but I did not see this one coming from a mile away. It completely shocked me, and it shocked me to the point where, and we'll get into who his replacement is essentially. I couldn't accept that. Like,
yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah, like I felt like it was torn away from me, and like I was actively rebelling against the game taking him away from me. Not because I felt it was the wrong decision, but because it made me feel that emotion,
and he's like by far the most important character for your party in terms of like holding them together and pushing them forward. Like, because like when he dies, like naturally your characters immediately start having conflict among each other. Like Maya, who was like very, very like in tune with him, they liked each other a lot. Being naturally the most sad about it, and like Lune pushing her on, being like, no, the expedition motto, when one falls we continue. And there's like a big very big obvious source of conflict here instantly. And as you said, his replacement is this is a great character. I think he's like amazing.
He's really good, yeah, and I like his VA.
But he's a fucking idiot. Yeah. Not in a way like, oh, this guy is a stupid goofy dumbass, but this is like a honestly, like he's called Verso. Very cool from the start. He's got like a style rank. He fights with like a dagger and a big sword. No, super cool.
That's a thing worth touching on, though. The style rank is like, this is in yet another game where inspirations come from, which is very obviously Devil May Cry. Like the more you parry, dodge attacks, and the more you hit action commands, it increases versus style rank. And that goes from D to S, and you get lots of
I wonder
perks.
Where the inspiration is.
Yeah, and again, like that's the breaking open, basically, of what Gustav System's next point is supposed to be, is that it rewards you for doing those things perfectly and not just using the abilities.
Yeah, and like, but Versa is a pretty terrible human being. Like, not even that he's a bad person, but he is not what this party needs. Like, in terms of how he acts, like he's like a very selfish, very controlling person. And whereas Gustav is like this very open, very friendly, very like the glue holding the party together, essentially. And then you get Versa, who's like, not like an asshole or anything, because he is like very willing to help you, and he does have his own goals naturally, and he doesn't trust other people to make their own decisions and whatnot, and like he's a pretty huge dickhead at times.
Yeah,
not even like as I said, not in an evil way or anything, but like he's I don't know, like as I said, like a very selfish person, I think.
No, totally. I think that's part of where the rebelling for me starts to come from, is that Gustav's story, I think a lot of people probably find more personally interesting as like a person who, as you say, is quite personable. He has his motivations for wanting to do what he wants to do, trying to hold the band together and everything else. And then, and this again is a crazy thing too. That I don't think I would say it out loud. Is like people say this game isn't anime. Is when you get Verso, you get like this like 1,000-year-old sad boy.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, oh, I'm so sad and old, and I'm like the coolest guy. I have a style meter, and I'm voiced by fucking Ben Starr.
And my moveset is based on the villain of the game, because he has a similar moveset to Renoir. So like
Renoir is his name that gets mentioned then.
Yeah, so like he has this like these same similar like kind of void strike attacks. It's like, oh, who the fuck is this guy? But yeah, he's like he is a cool anime guy, and it's like I think in a lot of ways he would be typically have been the first protagonist. in a lot of JRPGs, but Gustav is like, I guess you get like that surrogate first, and then you get Verso, which I did rebel against quite a bit. Like they make you control Verso by default when you're on the field, and I always switched that to Mael, because to me, Mael was the second in command practically of that. You know what I mean? Not literally as far as Expedition 33 was concerned, but as far as the plot was concerned, I thought it was as much Mael's story as it was Gustav's from a main point of view. So for me, that became the main character, and I was like, "Fuck this guy," you know.
Yeah, he's like there's like the funny thing, because like he has like a lot of these anime protagonist tropes, but he's also like very, very flawed kind of guy. He's not like very we're gonna defeat the evil god, and like, but he's like this super cool anime dude essentially, and then he's also kind of an idiot, and also like kind of not a great person and whatnot. There's like a lot going into this character.
Yeah, like he is a good character. I want to make clear too. You know, it's like I'm not saying he's just an anime dude or whatever else. Like, but as he goes along, as you say, like he isn't saying let's go defeat God, because he seems to have some other motivation. And the other people around him in Expedition 33 keep looking at him going, like, why are you doing this, essentially? Like, what is your whole deal for being here and for coming along with this kind of thing? And that's something that gets revealed as the plot goes along.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like, I think Act 2 and Act 1, in terms of, like, actual quality, to me, they were pretty similar, honestly. Like, I do think like, story-wise and character-wise, I enjoy 1 more. Because I think, especially story-wise, at some point, Act 2 just kind of spins its wheels a bit. But, like, the game opens up a little, we still get interesting development. I mean, losing Gustav at the end of 1 is, like, pretty huge. And then this new character who is totally not made to lead the group chimes in as the group leader. So there's, like, a lot of interesting stuff still going on here. And there's as I said, the game isn't entirely open yet, but it opens up a little more. So you can go to a little more areas. You can do a little more stuff in the old areas as well, if you want to go back and do that.
Yep.
Can unlock a lot of stuff. You already see some bosses where you're like, I don't know how I'm supposed to do this, especially with my 9,999 damage cap. You can still do them, by the way. Mm-hmm. It does work if you like ironically get good enough. Like it is what it is. You can legit get good enough in this game to beat a lot of its challenges, because most enemies you can just completely parry. There's like very few exceptions to this.
Yeah, I think the game does naturally get you from some of them too, though, because it's like you will run up against ones where you parry, and you'll see like the damage you do in return, and it won't be a lot. Yeah. But when you look at it, you'll go, okay, this will take about half an hour. It's fine, I can do that. But there is some fights you go into, and when you do that, it doesn't move the bar, and you're like,
guess not.
Even if I sat here and did like 3,000 consecutive perfect parries, it's still going to take like 3 hours, and I could just fucking level up and come back. I think I'll do that instead. Mm-hmm. So there's a little bit of both going on, but yeah, you can, if you want to spend those 3 hours and perfect parry, yes, you can, absolutely.
Hey, who am I to stop?
Yeah, no one will. The game will let you.
Yep. We also get our 5th character relatively early on, which is Monoko.
The boy
It's like a gesture. Wait, he's a gesture,
yes.
Right? I'm not
yes, he's just the mask on. Yes,
and he's like he looks like a little more serious, and then you hear him talk, and you're like, this is the dumbest idiot alive. Like, I mean this affectionately, mind you.
Oh yeah, he's a definition of like a himbo. He's a big strong dumb guy. And
the scene where he joins you versus and he's like, I never fight with you again, and versus like, you get to fight a lot of people, you get to beat up a lot of people, and he's like, I'm in. Hell yeah.
It's like a really funny back and forward again. The timing's really good, which is, again, this game's very funny. It's like, you'll get to fight a lot of people, and he went, I'll get to fight a lot of people. Yes, I will. True, I'm in. And then that's it. He's just
yeah, exactly. He just fucking loves it. They talk like this a lot, like Versa and Monoko, this back and forth that you mentioned. Yeah. And I think this is like the most humanizing part about Versa when he talks to Monoko and Eskie, because they have known each other for a while. Mm-hmm. And this is like where the mostly human side of Verso comes through, whereas when he talks to the party characters, sometimes I'm like, this guy's an asshole, he should leave.
I kind of didn't like too, like quite early on, and don't get me wrong, I don't think it's coming from Verso's side or whatever, but you can talk to like CL, and right away it's like, do you want to bang CL? And I was like, bro, what you know what I mean?
Pretty early,
yeah. You tell me like right away, this dude's like 1,000 years old, and like, fucking... CL is there, like, you know,
hell yeah.
And I think there's a weird power dynamic to that to me for him just joining and Gustav just dying. I was like, fuck off, don't fuck this guy. But then like CL acts all sad about it. It's like, oh.
You get like this. I wonder where this system is from. You get like the system from where you can raise your friendship meter with your characters, and you get special abilities and bonuses.
Nah. This game doesn't have cringe anime shit. Get that out of here.
No, especially not with like where you can bang the female characters. Except Maya, just don't get the wrong idea here.
Oh yeah, I'm so glad that wasn't an option. I was actually waiting for that. I was like, this better not be a fucking option. I swear to God.
I was like, thank God this isn't like written by some of the more peculiar writers. And then I was like, wait a second, this is French. We are still treating dangerous territory.
It's so true.
But no, it does not happen. Fortunately, I can assure you. But like, you get like the social link system essentially, which is not very elaborate. This is like if you're in the camp and you talk to someone and it says, do you want to spend time with them? Which is really funny because sometimes before that they're like, fuck off, Verso. And then the game's like, do you want to spend time with this person?
Yeah.
And you're like, hell yeah, dude. So they go spend time with each other, which has like no limit on this. Whenever you see this prompt, you can just click it. There's no repercussions for this at any point in the game.
No.
So it is like, it does feel like a bit tacked on, I think, because they needed some place to put some of these characters and moments because they don't exactly fit into the story. Like Verso and I don't know, Verso and Lune just hanging out and talking about some stupid shit. They can't just do this randomly while the party is like underway, and it feels like they just offloaded some of this into this system, and it is like not. It works because the character writing is interesting. But it's not like super elaborate or like
it's actually
in depth.
Actually, super similar to Baldur's Gate 3. In Baldur's Gate 3, you have the option to go to a camp, and it's pretty much identical to the way this is. Is like you'll have all your bozos kind of just hanging out around your camp, and you can go around and speak to them in similar manners. And if you had certain like time usage with them or had certain story events, you'll get like some stuff, and you can bang them, of course, with Baldur's Gate.
Naturally.
And it more or less is the exact same layout. I would be very surprised if they weren't inspired directly by that. Because like when we went into the area the first time, I was like, damn, this is just the Baldur's Gate camp. But immediately, again, best hits, you know what I mean, of shit recently, essentially. And I do think it's a good way to do that. Again, it's one of those things where the time spent in development doing it that way was worth it because all they had to do was make one area and then make all the cutscenes happen in this area. So they managed to get a hell of a lot of dialogue out of this and a lot of characterization. With remarkably little work. Well, not little work, you know what I mean? Less work than could have been.
I know,
if you had to do like a scene of like Lune and fucking Verso walking through a forest while you're out in the world map and make that a scene.
Model the forest.
That's a whole thing. But like I think the way they did this was very smart again. Not a lot to it though. Not a lot to it.
There's like two things that specifically bother me about it though. The first one being is that I do get character choices for Verso, which I think is very weird. Because Verso is like a very set character, and I don't know a lot about him at that point, but I do get to make decisions for him, which I think is like kind of at odds here. Like this is like Verso is a very defined character. He's relatively old. I think he says he was part of Expedition 0, which is the first expedition.
Yes.
Where at some point some characters like that's stupid should have been Expedition 100. Anyway, but like this is a very defined character with clear goals and a backstory that I don't know.
That's the point. You don't know it. That's what gets me.
But I do get to tell him what he thinks.
Yes.
This is like very weird. This is like something where the combat in terms of offense also reminded me of this, which is like a thing that I unfortunately bear with me, and I always have to think of when I go through something like this, which is how the story unfolds in Y2K. The video game.
No.
Because you also get to make some decisions for this character that's very clearly defined, and it is so weird. Like, why do I suddenly in this one situation get to make this? Like, I don't even know this character well enough to make this decision. Like, this is me. This is like me, the player, making a decision, wanting to know something, not me trying to act as the character. It's like very strange. it is always just choices between two different answers, and sometimes it's as easy as telling Sierra that I want to go to bed instead of banging her, which like fair enough. Which in that case like feels like very much like me, the player, saying no, this is a weird power dynamic, I don't really want that to happen.
That's exactly what that was coming from me. That was coming out of no consideration for Verso, where as if they give me these options with Gustav, for example, like Gustav's backstory and everything else about his character, who he is, what his motivations are, is all very clearly and cleanly defined. So if you ask me to make the same choice for Gustav, I would make a choice for Gustav, not a choice of my own for Verso.
Yeah, exactly. And like very early on, what's her face? The girl who's 34, I forgot her name again. In the intro.
Sophie?
He says like, Sophie says like, oh, you and Lune would be a cute couple, for example, and she's like, oh, or maybe something has already happened, and so like you kind of get the idea they do like each other, that kind of stuff. But with Verso, you have like nothing of this, but you can make these decisions for him, which is kind of weird. And another thing that I find very, very jarring about this is that usually after one of these social link conversations, I'm just going to call them that, you get like 4 to 5 lines of text on what the characters did and how they feel, and I think that's very, very strange, because this is like I know this is like a very, very beaten horse, the whole show don't tell thing. I think a game telling me the character felt this way is a very strange line to put into like writing. Like the character saying this is like a little different, it's already like very on the nose, but usually I get this because the character writing is strong, right? I get how these people feel when I listen to the dialogue, because it is actually very well written. But after that the game's like, oh, Verso felt glad about Eskia being nice to him or something, and I'm just like, I don't get it. Why did you put this here?
Yeah, it almost feels like it might be a holdover from like, interpreting it from Persona social links.
Yeah, like the notes. Yeah, like this is the keynotes on what this conversation is, but you're telling me again just in case I didn't get it.
But not even that there. Like, at the end of a Persona conversation where it says you can feel your relationship getting stronger. It almost feels like it almost feels like put it there without even thinking about it. Like.
Yeah, it this is like very strange, because I think a lot of the game's very well written, but that feels like strangely amateurish. Yeah. Like it feels like I know this isn't like a very experienced writer. I think it was her first game that she wrote.
I believe so. Yeah.
And I'm not like, and like for that it is like not even as like your first game. Like this is just a very well written game, don't get me wrong, but there's like sometimes I'm like, this is a mistake you wouldn't have made if you were more experienced, I think. Which is like I'm sitting here like some dude in his room talking about writing, but like this is like just something that I think a writer who has written more stuff wouldn't have done, most likely.
Well, like this is what I'm saying about pointing out the flaws. Like it's because it's more interesting to think like what's the next game from the studio going to look like then? Yeah. You know what I mean? Because like I feel that they will look at those things like themselves and go, oh, like, sure, maybe we should have done this, or we can put more time into this, or now that we've got this aspect nailed down, we can focus more on whatever. Like there's room for improvement, and improvement is definitely a great direction for the studio to go in, because this was a banger first game. And these things we're pointing out are like, they're criticisms, but none of it, like, I don't rank things in numbers, but like this is a 10 out of 10 for me as far as interest and everything was concerned. Like a complete, it more or less gripped me from start to finish. Like there's variations on that and whatever else, but everything it did and said was interesting, and the combat was fun. Like, whatever, 10 out of 10, bro. But like, I still have my problems with it, but
yeah, exactly. Like there's a lot of stuff they can learn from, and I think, fortunately, they're like much more open to like reflection themselves from how they talk about their game than a lot of people who have played it, where they're like, oh no, it's like the perfect game, it's like the best game I've played in 30 years. I'm just like, you like, not even like saying this can't be your favorite game of the last 30 years. That's not what I mean, because I mean it's taste subjective. If it resonates with you very well, I can totally see that. I really love this game. But like there's like a lot of I think unreflected talk about it, which is a bit of a shame, because it is so high quality that I do want people to talk about what didn't work and what they could improve in the next game, because they can make something that's even better than this, I think.
Oh, definitely.
And like I want to play whatever they make next. Doesn't even matter. Like if it's on the same level, if it's worse than this, I'll also play it. Like this is just one of these games that's like, oh, this is a studio you have to have on your radar if you're in any way interested in any of what's happening in this game.
Absolutely.
And anyway, we get. I was gonna say Monoko is like a blue mage kind of, where he transforms into all of the creatures that you find throughout your journey through the thingy. So like you learn attacks by because he's a very strange guy. He collects monster feet.
Yes,
and that's how he learns the attacks. So you have him in your party
feet.
when you defeat. He's a bit of a freak.
Yeah.
you like collect that, and you get, if he's in the party while you defeat something that gives him an ability, he just automatically gets it, no drop chance. And you do get, if he's in the party, you get like a little icon above the HP bar.
Yep.
To show them that you can get one. There's like 2 or 3 limited ones that you can actually miss out on. Everything else you can regrind in specific areas. Oh yeah, he's very cool. I actually didn't use him that much. Him and CL are like my reserves.
Yeah.
Like get sent in when my main team somehow doesn't one-shot everything.
Yeah, for me, Looney got bumped immediately, so I was running away Verso, Mael, and Monoko for a good bit. And,
so like it's just like very interesting even to see like there's like a very good JRPG party. You have 5 characters who all play completely differently.
And I'm a big fan of blue mages too, and there's not enough blue mages and stuff, I feel. So once I saw there's an archetype in this that can steal the enemy's abilities, I was like, happy days, we're in there. And what I also like about it too is, like, again, it's one step further. It's not that just being a blue mage is his thing, is that he has a roulette that spins every time he does a skill, and each skill advances a certain amount of the roulette, and each part of the roulette is colored differently. So there's a part for, like, it's called balanced. Then there's heavy attacks, which is green. There is like almighty, which is a rare one, which is like gold. And then there's a caster, which is blue. And if you are on one of those marks while using a skill, it enhances it. So then it becomes basically, okay, how do I set this up so I can go from one skill to the other and get the maximum benefit? Or even just go between 2 skills. If you find 2 really strong ones, you can just kind of almost bounce back and forward. A lot of really nice options, and there's so many enemy abilities too. It's another thing that really shocked me. I was thinking,
it's like 30 something.
Yeah, it's like so many. Like it's about as much as you would get in a blue mage in any other game. And I thought for sure this would be a thing where it'd be cut way down because, implementing all this would take time. But I feel that they were also super smart again in how to develop this, because instead of like giving Monoko like a unique animation where he does like an ice move or whatever else, he just turns into the enemy. And he does
their animation.
He does the enemy's animation, and that's really cool too. Because I think it's really great being able to flip the script a little bit. Because I think a lot of the designs, the Nevron designs are fine. Like I wouldn't say they're absolutely incredible or anything, but they do the job. And they're memorable enough as an enemy. But I think just allowing you to play with them on your side too is just that little bit extra fun. I always like stuff like that. So
it's fun, like a transforming character who also happens to like inherit enemy aesthetics.
Yeah, so like Blue Mage, big fan of the archetype, and I think it's very well implemented.
Yeah, like the wheel that where he works, like it's almost like an FF14 rotation in a way, depending on what you get set up.
Yeah, totally.
You press the next button that's enhanced now, and you try to like set up a rotation. You make like up your own FF14 rotation essentially with him, and like super interesting. There's so much, so many like very clear cut inspirations to me for or just like tap targeting MMOs in general work like that, like based on a rotation essentially. So like every character is super unique. They have their very own gimmick. Like again, I didn't play CL too much, but she has like a gimmick where she can apply cards like debuffs and use them up to get into more damage and get into an enhanced state and do specific abilities to stay in that enhanced state and whatnot. Like just all of these characters have a lot of stuff going on, and they play vastly differently if you have specific weapons that, I don't know, Verso has one that lets him start in C rank and not go below C rank, for example, which completely changes how he plays because his abilities do more damage depending on what rank you're in. Like obviously like the higher the more, but there's specific abilities that just do more if they're in C rank. So you're supposed to use them in C rank, for example, and if you use that weapon, you can use them as starter skills now, like optimally as starter skills. So this changes the character, how you play, and like because they use up a certain amount of AP, after that you can do specific other things, and you might be in B or A rank very quickly that way, like 1 or 2 turns in. So like just like you can do a lot with these characters. They all have a lot of weapons, and they have a lot of unique effects that you can use to make whatever you want with these characters. Really,
yeah. Like, I think it's worth stressing too, like how those unique effects do. That's not like an outlier. That one you're talking about in C rank, as far as weapons are concerned.
It's one of the most normal ones.
They actually, a lot of them are super impactful. Like, there's the one I found for Verso personally, which was the rank 3 ability, was increases all burn damage by 200% if you're in S rank.
Yeah.
So immediately then I start going, okay, my goal now of my build is to get to S rank as quickly as possible and also apply as much burn as I can. And it does completely blow up, and it changes the way you look at the game. And if you pay attention, like, I think it's very clear. Like, if anyone's still listening and you're still on the fence about buying this game, if you are paying attention to those ranks, you should pay attention to those ranks, because they will change entirely how you play the game. They're not just stat sticks; they completely change everything about how you approach the game.
Yeah, like a setup I had on Versa at some point, which is like very in depth. So I need to actually go into it a little, just to get like this. Like we don't need to talk about all of them like in depth, but just like a general idea, where like a weapon that makes his die rank give everyone else a damage bonus instead.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So you use an ability that puts him immediately into A rank, but also puts him on 1 HP. But you have a Picto that gives him a second turn, and another one which heals him to full if he hasn't taken damage since the last turn. So immediately gets back to 100% HP. You do another buff, which increases everyone else's attack. And because you have a Picto which applies an effect where if you buff anyone else, they also get a speed buff. And they get a stronger speed buff and a stronger attack buff because of other Pictos and blah, 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 blah. So, like, this is all on the first turn, all of this. And you need to get enough AP from other Pictos, like turn start and game start, battle start, to actually do all of this. So, like, a lot of this stuff. And then maybe you get like apply burn on shot, so Mael who acts next, can immediately go into virtuoso stance with her ability, or use the item where she starts in it, and that kind of stuff. So like a lot of these synergies which you can, especially as you get more and more weapons, more and more Pictos, way more Lumina points, you can just build these characters however you want. There's like so much variety to it, and super interesting to come up with all of that stuff to me.
Yeah, and like I'll just touch on what my build was, because I assume we're going to get into the super boss discussion later. But like you're talking about like that kind of flexibility as well too. It's like I was fighting that super boss, and you were talking about like how he steals your shields. It's pointless. They have shields against him. That's fine. So, but I looked at it and I went, okay, now my objective is to put as many shields on me as possible and hit him as hard as I can before he steals them. So I start seeing,
you can only do it on his turn. Yeah.
So I start looking, how do you transfer a shield? And the way you do that is you got to use auto death, which is a Picto that kills your character automatically. And on death, it transfers your shields to the living characters. So I put auto death on 2 of my characters, and then I have like an auto life on them, which reses them automatically. And when they res, then they have abilities that on res they give the other character powerful and rush and all this shit. So basically, from looking at that problem, I was able to flip the whole thing on its head, from a weakness to a strength, by cleverly using the Pictos. And my whole, like, I looked at the auto death and went, I'm never going to use this, what the fuck? But then when I seen the shield thing, and sorry, there's another important element to that, I give a Picto to Mael that for every shield she has, it increases her damage. So the more shields I'm given, the better. And that made the whole strategy. Like, never did I think though I would use the auto death. I thought that sounds like it's for goofy gimmick builds, and this is sort of a gimmick build, but still, that doesn't sound like my sort of thing. But when I realized then from connecting the dots that this was the way to do it, damn right I used that, and it just goes to show you, like, the amount of flexibility there is. Like, there's 3 completely different ways to get essentially the same end goal that you've already heard now on the podcast I was talking about. You know.
Yeah, no, it's like, again, that's like what's so interesting. If you're like into any of that stuff, you can do so much in this game. Like, I think if you aren't, to be honest, I think you can still play this pretty well. Like if you just go by like the weapon that says that you do more damage usually works. like it's not gonna let you down.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Act 3 would scale with that right enough, but like
yeah, like optional stuff probably not. For optional stuff you probably want to get more in depth with this kind of stuff unless you're a parry god for some reason. But like if you just want to play through the game, you don't need to like make a complicated build. If you just want to like go through it, you will do just fine by especially if you're on super adept at it. You just equip the thing that has damage on it, you upgrade it, and you will get through it just fine.
I think you can more or less play it like a regular JRPG if you wanted to. Like I didn't play it that way, but I assume from what I've seen and what I've played that if you chose just to dodge enemy attacks when you can or to the best of your ability and did no parrying whatsoever, you'd be totally fine going through this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like roughly halfway through Act 2, you hit damage cap on a lot of characters already.
Yep.
So at that point, I kind of wish the game just told you that you can get it uncapped at a specific point, because it is like I was talking to a friend of ours about it who was already past it at that point, where I asked, can I just do this and get my damage uncapped? Because it's very obvious that you get a damage uncapped if you run into some optional bosses. Yeah. And especially because you run into it so early and some abilities basically become useless because of it, because they only hit once. Yep. So like damage cap, it just kneecaps them completely. And sadly, like you just go on because you're like, oh yeah, I get it. Or like this is a little bit of a gamble because you don't know how a game interacts with you going to in this case specifically the Paintress. You don't know what's going to happen then, right?
Yeah.
What does it do? And that's where you get the damage uncapped from. So I just asked a friend and he was like, yeah, just go there and do it.
Yeah, and I did the same thing. I asked you. I said, should I go? Because like in JRPGs as well too, like you don't know what side of the fence this is falling on. Sometimes when you go to an area like that, it's like it's practically putting you to credits and you don't get an option to go back sometimes. It's like, oh, okay, right, well, no, I didn't get to do a cool extra shit I wanted to do, but no, to get the uncap, you need to go straight for the Paintress. And as you say, like it's really weird because Mael becomes such a valuable character early on because she hits like a truck and has she's clearly the DPS archetype, and I think immediately the first character people probably start building out properly is Mael because you immediately recognize that benefit from her. But also
200% damage bonus.
yeah. But also then because of the 9999 cap and for how long you have it, she becomes probably one of the worst characters towards the end of the game, because at that point like everyone's hitting 9999, but they're doing it with more hits on their attacks.
Yeah.
Where Mael has usually like the most attack she has is like the sword ballet maybe, which is like 5 or 6, which is still quite a lot.
But Lune can hit like 12.
And all her characters can't do. Like CL has like a big long combo as well that I've seen her use and whatever else. And I was hitting the damage cap on everything. I wasn't using those characters really, but I could see myself. I was like, I'm actually limiting myself now by using Mael, which is quite an interesting thing because obviously once you break that damage cap, that flips on its head yet again, and Mael becomes like the teenage nuke.
Yep. That's how you know it's Japanese. There's like a teenager hitting for fucking 5 billion damage.
It's crazy, like what heights you can reach. But yeah, towards the end of the game, it becomes very unsure, and there's still a lot of like super bosses and stuff like that you can go to at this part of the game and face. But you're sitting there wondering, am I wasting my time? Will there be something that breaks my damage cap? Where is it? I'm not sure how the game could communicate that to me.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like, it can't just tell you, by the way, you get damage on cap here. Like, that's stupid. That doesn't work either. Like, and it can't exactly like go, oh, the story still continues. Don't worry, because that's also stupid. Like, this is like rock and a hard place, you know. Like, it really is. I don't know. I don't even know if there's a good solution for this. But it is how it plays out, which is a bit of a shame.
Like I think it's like, you know, regardless of whether we can come up with a solution or not, I do think it's always a little bit of a flaw on the game designer's part when you force me to go beyond the constraints of the game to find an answer. Especially a game that's so story focused. It's like I don't want to Google that, you know, because I'm going to see a story.
Yeah, exactly.
And like this would be a story spoiler if you were to Google it, essentially. So like the only solution is to ask a friend, and fine, you know, you ask a friend or whatever else, but like, I prefer that the game designer manages to keep me in that world through any means necessary. Again, I don't have a solution for you. Rock on a hard place, as you say, but it is a feeling, like, and it's worth pointing out.
Yeah, and like this isn't like a game where where like I feel like a community puzzle is like a part of it essentially. Like there's no like meta texture element to it in something like an online game, or like even though this isn't supposed to be an excuse for those games not telling you a lot, but like even in something like Souls games where a lot there is this very meta texture element to them, where a lot of it is people communicating with each other and talking to each other about these things, like how to save NPC X, which you just can't find out unless you accidentally do it. That kind of stuff. Like this is not an element that ever occurs to me in this game. But for this one specific thing, this is like the only time it ever happened to me, unless it is like copy the best build, but that's lame. I don't do that.
Yeah.
And that's like fine. That's how video games work. But there's like nothing else where I ever felt compelled to look something up.
Yeah, no, that was the only thing.
As you said, I don't know what to do about it. Not my problem, fortunately. But it happens. So like, if you guys somehow are still listening without like the whole spoiler warning thingy, just go to the painters. Just trust us.
Yeah, just do it straight away. You'll be fine. But like I guess the solution to that is just to not do it in the same way. Like I understand from the plot point of view the significance of giving you the limit break on your damage, but like you have games like, for example, like Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, where breaking that limit's a very big part of the game, and you do that by doing optional challenges. It probably should be a thing where either it's like an optional challenge you can do not early on, but late Act 2 kind of thing, or you make it like a point in the skill tree maybe, where if you get to like this very far off point in the skill tree that gets the very last thing, then you can get the damage cap uncapped.
Like make it visible somehow.
Yeah. So you know it's coming, or you know you're going to be able to work towards it. So that's fine. You can do that, But like the way it's presented is quite frustrating.
Yeah, and there's like a few weird things about Act 2, I think. Like the early Act 2 is very similar to Act 1 in terms of structure, and then you run into this part where you get to choose between two different islands, where, though it does say one of these is preferable over the other, which is, so you essentially do it in an order, which is, again, kind of weird, to be honest. But it's like you fight these two, they're called axons, where I was like, I don't know what an axon is. But all the characters apparently know, and then, and they're not telling me. Like, Versa's like, oh yeah, they're super strong. And I'm like, all right, I guess the Axon is a super strong dude. And I was like a little confused here, because I felt like they just kind of forgot to fill me in.
Yeah, that's unusual.
Which is very topical, because then you go fight the first Axon, which is called Visage. And there's it is very cool. I really like the whole thing, actually, even though I wish the characters commented less on the faces and what the islands look like. Sometimes in that part in particular, like there's like 3 or 4 lines in a row where they comment on what the faces in the environment look like. This is like nitpicking, but still, it's just something I noticed when I play it. You like beat this boss, which is very cool. I really like the way it's presented here, and you get like this very weird scene with like masks floating around and CL saying something about masks, and this is like a line. It feels like there was a setup for this line. That definitely like there's a line that was set up, but they forgot to put the setup into the game. It's like very strange. This happens again during the second fight, which is Siren is her name, and this happens with Lune this time. So you have like these supposed character moments that aren't really character moments, because they aren't really connected to anything.
Yeah, like what I assumed that was going to build up to, because I already had suspicions by this point of the story about the nature of the world and all that kind of things, and I was thinking, like, are these some sort of representations of CL and Luna? Maybe that's been painted here. Maybe it's some something they draw power from, or maybe some aspect of them that's been separated, like almost like Devil May Cry 5 Urs and Virgil kind of style, and maybe that gives them a power up then when they get it back. But like, yeah, as you say, they kind of like in both cases, like this becomes like a unwinnable fight in both scenarios, and they both bail them out by basically going, oh, not even you're me or anything, just like, oh, you're a mask or whatever, and then they touch the enemy and they stop or die, and that's it.
What if I won?
Yeah, what if I won? Basically, they both have a character moment of what if I won, and that's like, again, it does actually feel like there is supposed to be more to that, and it was cut out. That actually does feel that way.
Yeah, it definitely feels like there was something missing here. Like, this is a character moment without the lead up, essentially. Something I really like right after that, though, is where you go to this barrier, because you defeat these to break the barrier to the painters, and you make like this weapon that is very clearly supposed to be for Mael, and the cutscene at the start, Lune wields it, and I thought this is like a way cooler character moment, where it's like, this is like, because she's always talking about like wanting to find out stuff, being like a little like rushing in and whatnot, and sometimes being like a little inconsiderate of Mael in particular. And I thought that's like way cooler, her having this weapon that is clearly supposed to be for Mael. And then she's like, wait a second, you should have this one. And I was like, this is like way better than what just happened. I don't know what happened here. Totally. And then naturally Mael uses it, gets a new weapon, the barrier breaker, very cool one. And then you get to the worst area in the game. I have no idea why the monolith. I think this is a bad area.
Okay.
I need to talk about.
Yeah, I actually didn't know your feelings were so strong in the monolith. I was kind of whatever on it, but yeah, by all means, go for it.
Okay, so the monolith, like, first of all, you fight the painters, and like nothing happens. You can't defeat her, and then you go into the monolith, and this is like a remix of all the old areas. Yes. Like, every single main area has like a little remix here with like some old enemies in them, and like one optional boss each area usually that's like also a remix of an old one. And I was like kind of like I know most of these enemies already. I know what their deal is. I was like a little bored. It's like a little too long, I think.
Yeah, it's long.
It is. And every single other area in this game, which is like very commendable, because this is still in its heart, like at the heart, an enemy in this game is an action game enemy, not a turn-based enemy. Because every enemy needs to have animations that I can react to, and every enemy needs to be varied in some way, fashion, right? So, like, every new enemy in this is way, way more expensive than a turn-based enemy. Totally. Like, there needs to be way more consideration, and go way more consideration to one of these enemies. And now I'm, like, refighting everything, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I didn't really enjoy that part. Like, just going, once again, spinning the wheels, going through some motions. There's some cool character moments doing that. You get like some story stuff while you go through the monolith, but like overall, this is like, I for a game that up until that point had constantly thrown new stuff at me of mostly very high quality, I felt like this is like a very low point compared to everything before it.
Definitely. Yeah, like, I guess for me, like, I guess what the reason why I was so, like, just whatever, but like, I do agree with everything you said. It's too long, and it's basically just remixing the same shit again, but the moment they want to play in Clair Obscur is really, really good. So I'm fine. I'm fine with blasting through an area and just being like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, I know it's not necessarily a good thing that I'm looking outward from the game and going, oh, sure, I'll stick on a podcast on the side, or I'll put on like a stream I'm watching, like a fighting game tournament, and I'll sit and go through all these fights knowing that they're more or less the same thing I've seen before, and just have fun doing the thing. Not that it excuses it, but I also think too, like this kind of feeds into something that I kind of felt starting to happen towards the end of Act 2, where when they break you out into the two islands, you say they fight the Axons. It's getting the impression now, it's like you know yourself, like when you get to the top of the map, it's mostly water, and there's only like a couple of islands. South of the map is full of areas, so this is the moment where I'm going, okay, now I'm late in the game and I'm seeing less stuff. Usually this means that they just didn't have time, so they ran out of stuff. They ran out of time or money or whatever, you know what I mean? So like that's possibly also feeding into remixed areas in the monolith as well, because these areas are very self-contained in how they're presented, as I said before, very affectionately student project-esque worlds. So you can very easily make teleports between those things and, you know, cobble together like a final dungeon kind of thing, which is also a throwback. Like lots of JRPGs did that way back in the day. So,
for sure,
you know, it's a very NES thing. They make you do the gauntlet at the end. You know what I mean? Like Mega Man.
Yeah. It's like especially with bosses in between, where it's like, oh, here's and there is some new enemies actually, which are some of the most annoying ones. Funnily enough, the enemies called Clair and Obscur. Ironically, Clair is like the worst enemy. I hate that.
I was like, there he is. enemies.
Oh, it's Clair and it's Obscur. No way, dude. And then you find one that's called Clair Obscur, and I was like, holy shit. How did they get the rights?
We're the Clair Obscur brothers.
Claire is a terrible enemy, not even badly designed. I'm just like,
there's something about like the way their animations are or something. Like they always seem to kind of
Claire's like
they both pull and go fast at the same time. Someone's like, which is which, you know?
Yeah, Claire's like the one that takes ages to attack.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, they were like, you know what, this Elden Ring delay, we can do that, but better.
Oh man,
we can do more.
Some of them are kind of crazy. Like, you know, like that actually always drives me nuts in Souls games. Especially the ones that have some kind of like variable wind-up rates. I hate how much they pull on that stuff sometimes, but obviously you have to do a certain amount of it to vary up the parry timing. But I guess then, again, that goes back to what I was saying earlier about the dodge. You can always kind of go back on the dodge as a crutch and learn that perfect parry timing first. But if you're thinking, oh, this guy's super slow, I'll get this, you'll find yourself parrying like 3 times before the thing comes down. And then it hits you in the middle of a parry. It's just like, come on.
It really is like Margit or something in Elden Ring. It's hilarious.
But I actually really like though
dodge like 3 times and then dunk.
Yeah, dunk. I actually really like though the Clair Obscur anime. It has this move where it sends out like little balls of light and they fire the lasers at you. And if you keep parrying them, it'll keep firing the laser. So you can actually you can beat that enemy essentially by just continually parrying, which I found very entertaining.
Yeah, they do cool stuff with that. Like they also have a move called exhausting combo where I was like, yeah, sure is. but you know, I really like when they play around with this parrying stuff. Like you said, that, or like there's enemies you have to parry to get your own turn, like optional enemies, I should say. Or like this one challenge optional where the boss like, can you parry my 20 hit combo? And I'm like, yes, I can actually. And then you get some bullshit.
Yeah, that was fun.
So later on during Act 2 or like during Act 1 already, you get 2 more defensive maneuvers, which I'm not super positive about. Like they aren't bad, but this is like not generally not what I'm a big fan of in these games, which is like one of them is jump. And the other one is like it's called gradient attacks. Essentially, enemies get like a gigantic tail where like where like the colors get sucked out. This is the idea. So gradient, you know, like color gradient.
Yep.
And you have to parry them with a very specific button. So yeah, like like especially the jump sounds like a little hypocritical as someone who loves Sekiro. But I always found it kind of weird that in a lot of these in a lot of games that I think I'd call inspired by Sekiro, they tend to have like if the enemy flashes blue, you do the blue counter, and if they flash red, you do the red counter. Which is what this is essentially, and it's sometimes they flash like so late, especially on the gradient attacks that you're already parrying, and then you eat shit.
Yeah,
you can't dodge those or parry those, by the way. And I always found that kind of weird, especially because I think this is clearly inspired by Sekiro, but Sekiro doesn't have any of this. Sekiro has like one notifier, which is unblockable, and there's like 4 different types of unblockable attacks, and you need to like get the correct option and like look at what the enemy is doing. Which is like, you could also argue this is essentially Simon Says, but I think this is like in a lot of games inspired by Sekiro in particular, this is like a little more egregious, and there's like another of those examples where I'm like, oh, the enemy does the blue attack, or like in this case the colorless attack, or just the jump attack, and you press the anti-jump attack button because you see the jump attack symbol, like it's a very specific symbol, and the gradient thingy is a very specific, like not a symbol, but it sucks all the color out. So I think like generally speaking it works, but I've never like felt like this is anything that enriches my experience in terms of defense. Like I don't feel great doing it, and I feel bad getting hit by it.
I think the jump one is the less egregious, and it could have worked a lot better maybe if it was put earlier into the game and enemies did a lot more mix-ups with that kind of combo. I understand that it's basically a Simon Says kind of thing, but there's a couple of enemies that do some tricky shit, like they'll fire projectiles first and then run up and hit you during the projectiles hitting you, so you gotta time everything correctly at once as it's hitting you, rather than from when it was done. So if you had some mix-ups like that with a jump, I think that's fine, but there isn't that many. There's a couple enemies that do something like that, and they're not that many, and they're not that great. But the gradient attack, on the other hand, I despise this element of the fucking
no
game.
idea what this is about.
It slows the whole thing right down. And as you say, then it's not like you just press the button, even in, like, when you see the color structure of the world, just press the button, because even then that would be boring, but at least it's consistent. No, the enemy has like a wind up during the gradient, and you don't know what part is going to hit you. This enemy could hit you fast, it could hit you slow, it could hit you all sorts of ways. So it's essentially a got you, because you can't dodge it and you can't parry it. You can only gradient parry it. It's awful. It just slows everything down, mixes shit, and when you know the timing, it's a freebie. It takes everything out.
Yeah, absolutely.
It takes every element, the risk reward and everything else, and just chucks it out the window. But thankfully, there isn't that many of them. So when it happens, it's just kind of like, okay, I got a free gradient, whatever.
And they're like kind of weird too, because you don't. If you get hit by every previous attack of that, hit of that attack, if the 8th attack of that move is a gradient attack and you parry that one, you get the counter.
Yeah,
it's like very strange.
I started realizing there was no point apart from any benefits I might get from parrying, like AP or whatever. Dodge the attack up until the gradient attack, because you don't got to parry at all.
Exactly.
If they made it that you had to do that and then gradient attack, then okay, you might have something going on there. Maybe that should have been how that was implemented in general. That gradient attacks will be woven in to strings. But no, they almost sit separately apart, as if they were scared of not having a feature for that button or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's like I don't like obviously I can't pinpoint this correctly, but I feel like sometimes this kind of stuff comes from like a little bit of misunderstanding of how unblockables work in Sekiro. I don't want to say they specifically looked at this, right? But just like to draw a comparison again, in Sekiro, if you get the unblockable symbol, right, and this is the only information you get outside of the enemy animation.
Yeah.
And if it's a sweep, you have to jump. And if it's a stab, it will catch the jump, so you have to dodge into the enemy. But if it's a grab, it catches both of those options, so you have to dodge away from it usually. So like there's like you get like an info here that is there's an unblockable attack coming, and then you need to do the specific right thing. To get a massive reward in Sekiro as well, but like in this it's like, oh, there's unblockable attack 1 coming, so you do unblockable attack 1 option, or it's option 2, so you do option 2. And again, the jump isn't like super egregious, like a nice counter, especially because some enemies do it a mid move, like mid combo, so you just get like a little hit and then you keep parrying. And it's like a little whatever, but it's fun to do, honestly. It's nice to see a whole party jump up.
Yep.
But yeah, the gradient attack is like so weird. Very, very strange feature. I don't really know what they were going for with that one, to be honest.
It's a weird one. And just as it pops in my head, I want to give a shout out to this specific thing. It isn't actually a spoiler. It's something I just think we just didn't mention as we went along. But whoever handled like the text for the UI in this game, I think deserves a particular mention from me, because like you have like when a battle finishes, the continue button says "We continue," which I think is a nice little flourish. And then like the one I'm going to bring up is when an enemy does an attack that's like an AoE that hits you all, and you parry it. It doesn't say you countered it or whatever else. It says Expedition 33 counterattacks. And that is
it's sick.
It's such a cool touch. It's such a small thing, but it really makes you all feel like, yeah, we're doing this together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's like this is like something really interesting too, because you can go from like this system mechanic that is like very confusing, and then you go, oh yeah, by the way, also there's this super cool element to it as well. Like this is what I mean. Like the game is super good. So I think that makes gradient attack stick out more, because a lot of it is like so well designed.
Yeah,
and
that's my problem exactly. Is that the rest of it works totally fine, even the jump to an extent, but gradient attack especially
just feels separate.
Yeah,
just feels like something else. Like this is just not part of the combat anymore.
It feels like it was half baked. Like it feels like something they wanted to be more than it was, and they just didn't have time to do anything else with it. So they basically made it like another one of those things that can happen. It doesn't add anything at all, though, or add any complexity or difficulty. It adds just annoyance to me. I never felt good about getting hit by a gradient attack. I never felt good about parrying one. So it was just like, all right, fine, bro.
There's like an interesting system in the game I don't chill enough for, which is 9 souls. which is also very parry focused, very clearly inspired by Sekiro, which also has like these attacks that you have to do like one specific counter for sometimes. But the thing about that is, for example, which I think maybe gradient counters could have worked better that way, is essentially there's a system where if you hold a button for like, I don't want to say a second or 1.5 seconds, you can go into specific counter stance just for like a few, not a few frames, but like some frames. But you need to hold it like pretty early. You can't just do this like on reaction to a lot of moves. But if you know what's happening, you can go into this stance and parry every single move in the game with that. And I feel like maybe doing something with like holding this button, like holding the gradient counter thingy to like also let it interact with other moves in the game would have been interesting.
That'd be cool, yeah.
But no, it's just completely separate, which is strange. By the way, you should, if you like this or Sekiro or something, you should also play Nine Souls. Everyone is listening. But I don't know. It's just strange and sticks out so hard because everything else in the game is so good.
Yeah, no,
and
it's bad. I'd even go as far as say it's bad.
Yeah, no, this is a bad system.
Yeah.
In an excellent combat system, it suddenly gets like this attack where I'm just like, you should just delete this again.
Yeah.
Which is, I think the Super Boss doesn't have one of these, by the way.
Oh, he didn't actually live long enough for me to find out, or I never lived long enough when I was attempting him.
Yeah, but like his entire moveset is, he has a sweep and everything else you can parry. So like just they were like, yeah, nah, we shouldn't have this guy. This guy shouldn't have this either. We get it, but no, like I think the most of the main bosses get it. But yeah, again, you get to the painters, you do fight Renoir. There's like a very strange moment with Renoir where it says something is coming, and then this gigantic cat enters.
Oh yeah.
And it's sick, but I was like, at one point I was like, did I miss Renoir having a cat, or does he just have a cat because it's fucking cool? And I'm like, you know what? Fair enough. It is very cool.
I don't even think I even got to see what that did in the fight because like I did so much damage, it just blew past whatever it was supposed to actually do.
Yeah, you can defeat him very quick if you have if you have multi hit stuff that gets the 999.
Yeah, that's mostly what I was focused on at that point.
Yeah, but you know, go defeat the painters. Game's over. Happy ending.
Yeah. One thing I want to say quick about Renoir before we flip the script on that one is that I talked to you about this previously before, but what I really like about games as a medium is that games are visual storytelling mediums, and as we know yourself from like admiring paintings or watching movies, visuals are a big part of the art. But the difference with video games is sometimes they let you interact directly with that art, and I usually try to take the opportunity to do, as you would say, like a bit of RPing and stuff when it gives me the opportunity. So when Renoir killed Gustave, I actually used the hairstyle option to change Mael's hair to short. Doing that kind of trope, like I'm cutting off my ponytail now because I've got to get revenge.
Something tragic.
Yeah. And that my idea was, okay, she's not going to put her hair back up in this until she gets her revenge. And so we went through the game, and I had longer hairstyles too. So I thought, oh well, by this point her hair would be longer now. So I made the hair longer and lay down. And then when I killed Renoir finally in the monolith, I put the hair back up. And I was just like, that's one of those moments. Like that was just for me. That was for no one else. I love when games give me little options like that to kind of expand on things like that there and put my own little spin on it. And that was like a nice little personal thing for me that happened at that point. So we took down Renoir after that fight, blew his ass away because I didn't even get to see whatever the cat does. And then Mael just put her hair straight back up. Man, okay, we're done here. And I was like, that's cool. So just wanted to give a wee shout out to that. That's always really neat to me.
Super fun, yeah. Like when you can make like a little for you, because it is like not just a story that they are telling, you're also part of it.
Yes. So you give me the opportunity to be a part of that in some sort of way, then I'm going to take that opportunity. And really shout outs too to the fact that they put the option in for the stuff they display during cutscenes. So for me, my immersion was very rarely broken. I think there's a very odd cutscene that doesn't display them because like they may be pre-rendered or something like that.
Yeah.
But most of them, I'd say 99% of them, definitely it displays. And the option in the menu says like oh, it might not be correct if you have like customization options on, but it's fun. So I think that's almost it almost feels like dev text to me. It's like they left it in there because they're like, it's fun. Screw it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But it's fun, so leave it in. And I had fun, so thank you.
Yeah, no, it's like a very, very honest about all this stuff where it's just like, like they're like playing around with that a little. They do know they are making a game and all, and they do know that kind of stuff is sometimes a bit goofy, but that's fine. Yeah, no, but we defeat the Painters and we get like the big, which like has been very long hinted at during Act 2, get like the big twist.
Yep.
Of the whole, it's like there's like a weird moment which I actually didn't mind because it does get like a little complicated at this point, where after what happens, then Verso actually just has like a few lines where he just says what happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Thank you, Verso. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Sometimes like, you gotta spell it out a little bit. Like people always say, like show don't tell and stuff like that. There, and while that is true, sometimes some clarification is appreciated. And although I think I guessed a lot of the major twists that were coming, it doesn't mean that I don't want them to reaffirm that. And I don't think it ever goes over the line. I think Verso's little recap is pretty natural for what it is. And yeah, absolutely appreciate it, as you say, when things are getting a bit crazy. Did I get the right end of the stick? You know what I mean? Is this what's happening? It's like, oh, then,
exactly.
Then he says it out loud, you're like, okay, that's what's happening. Cool.
Yeah. He does actually. I actually got the exact line here.
Oh, did you? Go for it. Yeah.
He says, Aline wants her son back. Renoir wants you and Aline back. You want Gustave back. The cycle we needed to break wasn't the gommage, it was your family's cycle of grief.
Yep.
And that's essentially what it is. Like, the entire thing is like a painted world, essentially. Which is like, at some point, there's like a lot of hints at this. There's like a character who looks exactly like Mel, and well, except for like her hair color and some burn wounds, but and Mel can interact with like this with the painters does like stuff and whatnot. There's like a lot of hints here. It's not supposed to like completely catch you off guard or anything. But yeah, essentially it's like a painted world by this painter family of Renoir and Aline, who are the parents, and have like painted versions of them in the painted world as well. So like the Renoir you find here is like the painted one. That's why he tries to stop you from getting to the monolith, because the real Renoir does actually want to destroy the painted world, and he wouldn't stop you. And like. Yeah, sorry.
Oh no, I was going to say like just as a quick correction, or not, I might have misheard you. That they didn't create the painting; it was created. Or sorry, are you getting to that?
Right. No. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I wasn't talking about that. Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah, they're creating stuff inside the painted world, but they didn't create the painted world.
Yeah, and this is like, to me, this is like actually very important distinction, because I almost didn't mention that, which is because it's very good. Because I think like at some point I was like thinking, this is like better not be just about escapism, which it isn't. Like there's stuff, there's like it's like a very clear element. But I was thinking, hopefully this isn't like the entire core thesis and like what the entire thing is about, but no, like this painting is like, it's like different. This isn't like made by this family to escape some whatever tragic fate has struck them or something.
Yeah, like there definitely is an element of it, but it's definitely more about like grief, you know, and like and like an element of this, like people keep saying like, you know, about how like and we'll get into stuff about more later, but I'll just quickly touch on the people have seen it as a metaphor for like addiction, for example, that they can't stop going to this world because it offers them so much. But like the idea, and I'll say this just right now, is Verso was the person who painted the painting. The original person who painted the painting, he's now dead. The real life version of Verso, and essentially, this painting retains a part of his soul. So like when you think about that, people say like addiction because it was a really obvious straight line. He made a magic painting, so people like the painting. But it's a bit more complicated than that. What it is like, imagine yourself like just regardless of magic or whatever else, someone close to you dies and you have a piece of their art left, and you get obsessed with this art because, you know, it's a piece of them essentially, and that's what art is. You know, this is a game made by artists, you know what I mean? They obviously know the analogy they're using here when they're saying you leave a piece of your soul in it. It doesn't have to be literal. It is literal in this sense, but it doesn't have to be literal. imagine the idea then of seeing someone going through that grief, obsessed with a painting of of someone loved away, or someone who they loved had passed away and left them. Imagine someone trying to destroy that painting then because they're obsessed with it. You know what I mean? It's a lot more simple than that when you break it down to the core meaning. It's not about addiction; it's about grief. And this person might genuinely be obsessed with this painting. Is it right to take that away from him? Is it wrong to take that away from him? You know, there's many schools of thought about that. It's not just like addiction or, as you say, escapism. It's grief, handling of grief, and how do the people around you handle you when you're grieving? You know.
Yeah, and the whole escapism thingy to me is also like that. Like it is a part, as you said. I don't want to say there's like nothing of this, but there's like an aspect to me that's important, which is like the game doesn't treat this painted world as like not real or something, and like the characters within it are like. These are like people, they are living their lives, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going, oh, well, this is all unreal, this is all not real, we can just turn it off and, like, doesn't really matter or anything. It's not like, and you just need to realize that none of this stuff really matters, and there's like a lot of nuance to it, I think, and because I feel like if like this late it went into, well, none of these people are real, it could have cheapened a lot of the characters.
I was really afraid it was going to become exactly that. Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, well, I guess Gustav's death doesn't really matter. No, actually, like, matters way more, especially with Verso replacing him and Verso being, like, this kind of not great dude, whereas Gustav is, like, their chance at maybe finding a good solution together because he's such a nice dude and so in tune with Mael. So he could have, like, I don't know if he could have, but, like, he could have tried, you know what I mean? Tried finding something here, but he's gone, so, like, and then we find out Verso let him die. He could have saved him. Yeah. So like there's like, and this is like very important character moment for Verso, I think, where once again the character who wants to take everyone's decisions out of their own hands because he thinks he knows what's best for them, which is also like a part of the ending where like there's an ending choice. We can get into the ending a bit later, but like siding with like doing Verso's ending. Where is once again this he knows what's best. This is like not even necessarily saying that he's wrong, but it is like a very in character thing for him where he's not even like manipulative or something, but he just doesn't trust people to make the right decisions, and this is like a core component of this character to me, which is very interesting, very cool character, I think.
Yeah, and like he's very uncertain of himself too. Like I think this reveal actually does, for me, it helped me like Verso a bit more than my initial impressions, because he is struggling because he's a painted version of the real Verso, and he
knows that,
and he's aware of this. Yeah, so it's not like that he's like, oh, I am Verso, walking around, you know, thinking that he really is that. he knows he's essentially a shade of a person, and there's people around him who love the living Verso, treating him like that Verso, and that causes a conflict within him of himself and who he is and what his real relationship should look like, or if his life even has meaning to begin with. Like as you say, they are real people, but that causes like a crisis of consciousness with Verso. It gives him a lot more depth beyond being a 1,000-year-old anime sad boy like I thought he first was. So he still is that, but like he's got more going on than that is the point.
There's stuff going on. There's like the characterization comes in later here where he gets way more interesting. I mean, unfortunately, we also get to Act 3 story-wise, but like this is like the general idea, and like Mael gets new powers because she wasn't overpowered enough already. And she gets, when we get the damage cap, she immediately, because she's one of the painters, so she gets some painting abilities essentially, and she gets to use like the same kind of particle effects that Renoir has.
Yeah, and one thing I want to point out again, like since this isn't anime cringe, as we know, what happens there when she powers up? Like when she.
Like when it's not anime, so the one thing that couldn't happen is her getting white hair, you know?
Oh, that would never happen. That would never happen.
This would never happen.
This is Western, and it's serious, and the 16-year-old would not turn Super Saiyan, okay?
Yeah, she doesn't get like a cool coat and white hair and like attacks where she's floating around while hitting the enemy. This would never happen.
Would never happen. But yeah, so Mael gets white hair, and we find out her real, her real, what's the word I'm looking for here? Why am I blanking on this? Her real identity. Sure. There we go. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Her real identity is Alicia. You know, or
exactly.
She's some. I'm actually not 100% clear. She was like a reborn version of Alicia.
I think so, yeah.
Within the painting, and there is also another Alicia, isn't there?
Yeah. There's like the I think that's like the I'm not quite sure. Is that like the painting one?
That's the painted one, and she's like the real one within the painting. Yeah.
Yeah, and she like the other Alicia is like our versus Alicia essentially. Who's also like our versus the painted verso, and that's his Alicia. Essentially.
Yeah, in the same way he has his own Renoir as well, which is his father.
Yeah,
there's a painted version of the family and also the real family. Yeah.
Yeah, and with the paintress being Aline, who's the mother, and there's also Claire, who is I think their older sister as well.
Yep, and she's mostly unconcerned with matters within the painting. She is doing some shit outside the painting.
Yeah, and she does have like a bunch of side content tied to her, where you get to know stuff about her and her boyfriend, who's a very interesting dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get the cool anime power up. You get a bunch of new moves, which are all very, very fun.
Right.
You get the Malnuk Stendhal is what it's called, and which is the famous hit one enemy for 1 billion damage attack, which got nerfed by 40%.
Yeah, this is the move I was saying earlier. Even post nerf, I still one hit the super boss. So
yeah, and I think the game kind of takes a nosedive story and gameplay wise here in Act 3.
Act 3 is so rough, man.
It's like the story's good, but it's not there anymore. Like the stuff that happens is interesting, but it is like in the epilogue of Act 2 is like a lot of the reveals, and then most of the rest is in like the last dungeon.
Yeah, and I think I have an issue with as well too is like at one point like JRPGs used to be designed in a way when you had optional content in like an end game esque area, usually the last act of the game where they give you the airship and open up the whole map to you.
Yeah, that's what happens here too.
It's essentially what happens. Yeah, so it follows that in line, but the way it doesn't follow that in line is if you play a game like Final Fantasy IV, for example, and you run around and you do all the optional content, you can do all that shit, get the ultimate weapons in the game and whatever else. And when you still go to the last fight still poses somewhat of a challenge. Like it's usually easier because you now have all this fucking powerful weaponry and you've got all your top level abilities and stuff. But the opposite happens in Clair Obscur. It seems to be doing the thing like when you're in Act 2, you're now ready to finish the game. Like if you
can just go there, finish it,
and it's not difficult. Like I didn't go straight there myself, but I wouldn't say it would be difficult from what I've seen. I think you can go straight from the paintress to there, and essentially, like it isn't even really an Act 3. It's essentially half an hour more of a story.
Yeah, I just don't know a single person who knows the moveset of the final boss.
Yeah, see, and this is the problem too, because like that's the way they were designed before. They're designed now almost in a way that they're afraid of people missing out on that content because maybe they're not willing to do the side content or something. And the offshoot of that is then that if you go do all that side content, you're unbelievably overpowered because that stuff is very feast and famine too. So it forces you into this box where you have to play like we were saying, like Yu-Gi-Oh! One turn kill decks, basically.
Yeah.
Like either the boss will one shot you or you will one shot them.
It is like heaven or hell in DMC.
Yeah.
Like and so the Yu-Gi-Oh! One is like more apt, it's turn based, and you yell at your opponent to end their turn. But like and especially because you make up this gigantic Yu-Gi-Oh! Combo essentially. This isn't a riff on Yu-Gi-Oh! On a side note, but like you make like this big combo where like with the double turn and first turn you get like 6 turns before the enemy can do anything.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. That's like an insane amount of turns you can do, and you can do so much in those. And my goal is to just blow everything up before it can blow me up, because I don't want to learn fucking 15 hit combos. I don't want to do that.
But so they do kind of make that the solution. Like like I understand that I could sit there and learn those parry timings and everything else. But like they do hit so hard, and it becomes such a race, like almost like a DPS race kind of situation where the game is pushing you into that box. And again, like me and you have come away from this with completely different builds, but the objective of our builds is essentially the same thing. Do not let the enemy act. So like I do feel that the game is naturally pushing you towards that. It's not naturally pushing you towards being conservative for those elements and trying the parrying stuff. It is boxing you into one-shotting shit. And I felt at one point there was no other option for where I could go with that.
Yeah.
And then this is the point then where I started using Lumina points because I needed to pick those. Or the Luminas, and then I actually upgraded my weapon for the first time I was streaming to you before I went to fight the super boss and got the achievement and everything for upgrading the weapon. But that's why I did that. Like I was having fine self-limiting up until Act 3, and then Act 3 was kind of like, no, you got to kind of play the rules of the game now. And I was like, cool. Well, what's the rules of the game? Well, the rule is we're going to just one shot you, and I was like, oh, okay. I guess I'm I'm one shotting you back then.
You get the auto revive Lumina for like a second chance, and then you win or you don't.
That's a thing too. But again, I had fun making that build because, like you were saying about the auto revive one, I had an auto death and an auto revive, so they died immediately. Yeah. Did all this bullshit. I could give Mael an extra turn, and Mael just went stand all, you're dead, and that was the game. Yeah. That was the game solved. So unfortunately, when it comes in to doing the last part of the game, which should be more exciting than it is, it was more or less like, I don't know, I wouldn't even call it a victory lap. It was going through the motions for me because I already had my one-shot Mael build on, and I was just kind of plowing through it.
You do it and you win.
Yeah. There was no chance.
There's like a... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, nothing had a chance. Nothing had a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. There's like a lot of stuff to do still in Act 3, actually, which is interesting. Like a lot of optional things. There's some stuff the game definitely tries to guide you towards, which I do actually consider part of the main story still. Because I think this is it's like a little unfair to because the game, if you talk to characters, it gives you like quest markers and whatnot for a bunch of important character moments, which I do think is still like this is what the game still expects you to do, even if you don't do a lot of other optional stuff.
I agree. Yeah, they could have easily folded that in the Act 2, and I would have been fine with that. You know, if it is like part of the story.
We get like the third axon, which is where you find out what these are based on, where you get to like the Alicia one, where you get like a one-on-one fight between Mael and Alicia. You get her second nuke. Because she needed to. And you get like quests for the other characters as well. You get like a little more S-tier stuff. You get to meet Francois again, so like actually the act's good, never mind.
So true. That's one of my criticisms. Was not more Francois. Come on, man.
Yeah, he's amazing. I love him.
Yeah,
just like as an elaborate, he's like this turtle who can't move. He's like a rock turtle guy,
and he's like chilling, grumpy. Well, he's not even chilling. He's grumpy as fuck. Like you come in, he's like, get the hell out.
Yeah, and then like, but he's also got like a little human touch to him. You find out it's nice.
Oh yeah,
and you get like to do a little quest for Monoko and whatnot. All of these are like stuff I would consider part of the main story still, and
they're all valuable parts. Yeah, because like with Monoko, you learn about how they what the Jestrel's life and rebirth looks like, because they get rebirth from a river. Yeah. And as you say, then with with Alicia, then it's a very important character moment for Mael, being able to actually directly confront this painted version of herself.
Yeah, and you get like a solution to Lune's conflict with her own parents. Yeah, she's always like, "Oh yeah, parents like just kind of see her as a backup plan rather than a person."
Yep.
And you get more info on that. There's like a lot of cool stuff, and a lot of actually pretty cool looking optional bosses as well.
Yep.
There's like the one that gives you the double turn, which is called Sprung or Sprung. It's like a big walkie guy, and he has very very cool animations. Like I think if you beat him, I think Verso says one of her first creations, her being Clair, or Clair. I don't know how they actually pronounce it in the game. I forgot.
Clair Obscur.
I think this is Clair Redfield Obscur. But it like moves a bit weird and a bit almost unfinished. So I thought there was like a little neat touch where Verso's like, oh, that was one of her first creations. Like, I was like, yeah, one of her first creations, like a big guy who kind of sucks, but hits real hard. Makes a lot of sense.
Like unrefined art, which obviously, it's like the through line of what the inspiration for this is.
you find out Eski is, I think, based on a plushie, and of course that's why he's the most overpowered guy in the universe, because he's the girl's plushie. Of course he's super strong.
Yeah,
he's the bravest and coolest guy ever.
No, for sure.
It's there's like a bunch of good stuff here. You can also go actually meet Claire, where the game is like, oh, don't go here, it's the hardest shit ever, and then you one shot her.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, sure. But like just like there's a lot of stuff you can still find. And of course Simon, who's the super boss. There's a bunch of the super bosses. There's like this fight where you fight the second form of the Painters and another form of Renoir at the same time in like this thing called Endless Tower, which has a ton of like, this is like a challenge mode thingy. So if you really want to test your builds and do stuff, there's a lot of stuff that you can do in this game to like that you can use your builds on, essentially.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like,
it definitely encourages it.
Like a lot of JRPGs have that too, and that's another thing. Again, greatest hits kind of element where like a lot of the RPGs I like anyway have like a 100 floor challenge usually, and it escalates up to the hardest bosses in the game. And funny enough, the 1,000-Year Door also has that as a thing, and I love it in that game as well too. So yeah, no, that's a great addition. I always like when they have a mode like that, and they fight a version of the main boss, and it's combined with another boss, and they thing together called Painted Love, which is a great name.
And share an HP bar.
Yeah, and they share an HP bar, and it's a pretty tough fight as well. Yeah, like really like that. Really, really great addition to the game. Like I'm hard in Act 3, but like I just don't. I don't think overall it immersed me or made me as interested as the rest. I was feeling like going through the motions most of the time. It became almost like a podcast game at that point, and I started kind of slipping out of it. I just remember, and this is an emotion I shouldn't have felt, I think, based on my expectations from Act 1 and 2. But like when I was going to the end of the game, I was relieved. I was like, fucking thank God that's over. Which is that's the first time I felt like that in the entire game. Yeah, you know, so it's a big shame. But
and
it's still good.
That's like yeah, definitely. And like if you just want to kill stuff, here's your like if you don't just finish it. Like don't bother with like most except the marked stuff, and maybe go find Claire, because that's also technically plot stuff. But outside of that, just go to the back to Lumia and finish the game. If you don't wanna like if you don't feel like fighting a lot in this game, which is fine. Like just go do that. But if not, you can still go beat up Simon. Make your funniest build that one shots him. Like the super boss who you find in, like underneath the whole world. This is like as you said, greatest hits.
Yep.
It is. This one is like the very, very.
It's real obvious. Like when it started happening, I was like, "Are they doing what I think?" And I went, "Oh, they're totally doing it. They're doing it."
The funniest part to me is actually the lead up to getting to him, because you jump down.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's where I started going. Are they doing what I think they're about to do here? And I went, "Oh, they totally fucking are."
Yeah, you jump down, just fall, and you're like,
into some sort of abyss looking thing.
This reminds me of something.
Yeah.
And then it is called the Abyss, and there's a sad guy with a sword, and then you beat him, and suddenly he gets resurrected, and this voice from nowhere talks to him about some bullshit, and he goes into the Artoria stance.
He does the Artoria stance, and he has like a moonlight blade that follows up his attacks and stuff.
Yeah, and then he gets at phase 3, he gets like 2 moonlight blades and follow up the attacks. It is very funny.
Yeah, very on the nose, but very cool. I quite like that.
Yeah, no, like I don't mind. I think this is like not a fun boss to learn.
No.
Not necessarily because of the boss, actually. I think this is like a system-wide issue that also kind of annoys me in Act 3, which is it's kind of annoying to get back into fights in this when you think they're already over. And this is a boss who has like 12 hit combos that hit your entire party. So it can be over very quick,
and it one shot you. Like you'll not survive a hit. Well, maybe if you build a certain way, but it becomes like apparent that that's kind of not the way to go about this. And as you say, it's quite a long run back. Yeah, the run back's the biggest issue, and I have that down in my notes. Is one of my main criticisms actually is there's no button to restart the fight. That absolutely it should be a simple enough quality of life change. They make. Would be a massive boon, because I think I would have actually stuck with this boss and learned the parry timing for all like 12 hits, and then the doubled up 12 hits and all that crap. if I could practice it constantly, essentially it is like a rhythm game to an extent. And when you're breaking my rhythm, then by sending me back to basically like a 2-minute walk back to the boss, then I'm going to get bored doing that, and that's the point where I start going, all right, I'm going to one-shot your ass. How about that?
Yeah, and you need to do his phase 1 again, which is super easy.
Yeah, it's lame too. At least let me start in phase 2. When it puts into the fight, then remember that I've done it or something, because it's a bit much. There had to be some solution to that.
Yeah,
it wasn't great. That
I always thought there's 2 solutions I really like to this in other games. The first one, once again, being Sekiro, actually, where you can revive up to 2 or 3 times during a fight, which is where the game just lets you get back into the same attempt instantly, essentially, which is very interesting to me, because it's you're still very much in this attempt, in the mood of fighting this specific guy, and you get straight into this actual same attempt. Is very interesting, very cool. And then if you fuck up again, then go do it again. Yeah. And usually you are like 10 seconds away from it. Another one I really like is actually how Armored Core 6 handled restarts, where you can let the animation of you dying play out, and then you press restart, or you make a new build, you gather your thoughts a little, or you can, as you see yourself get hit by the attack, you just immediately press start and restart the fight.
Yeah.
And it just goes back into the beginning of the fight. And this is something I wish this game had, where it is just, I get it, I'm probably, you already went through all of my one-time revives. You just killed 2 of my characters. You kicked one of them out of the party, because naturally he can do that as well.
Yeah.
That completely removes them from the fight. I just want to restart. But to restart, I need to let the other characters die. Then I need to press no, don't send in the reserves. Wait for the load screen to end. Go back to him. Go through phase 1, which I can do in my turn. In my 6 turns at the start, not a problem. Skip the cutscene. Now I'm back in the next attempt.
Yeah, you actually, it's so long, you actually missed a bit there. Because when you're waiting for him to kill the rest of your party, he'll one-shot you typically with the first hit of his 15-hit combo, and then he'll do the rest of the combo, and you just can't sit. A lot of games have a clipping on the animation where if an enemy has a long combo string in a JRPG and they kill you with the first hit of that combo string, they will typically stop and kind of snap back to their default pose before it's over. And it'll just say game over. And again, this is kind of one of the things where there might be cut corners in this game. This game never does that. And this never stops being an annoying thing when you die to a particularly long combo string from a bullshit enemy you've never seen before, and you gotta wait for that long ass string they play out. But it's especially egregious in this guy because all his things are long combo strings.
Yeah.
So anytime you're throwing away an attempt, you have to watch that. Yeah. Basically. Yeah. Sorry.
Exactly. And I would have liked to learn this, but the game doesn't. I feel like the game is fighting me.
Yeah, it's aggressively trying to make it as inconvenient as possible for you. And typically, I'm kind of one of them people who'd be like, okay, I'll just take the game as it is. But when you're breaking it down to a rhythm game, a rhythm game specifically, I'm playing.
Yeah.
You need to be letting it go in again right away. You can't barricade me off of 2 minutes of basically cooling down after warming up.
Yeah, especially if the fight is over in 1 or 2 hits because I fucked something up that I'm trying to learn.
You know what would even be good? If you had some area in the game you could go to where you could fight shadow versions of enemies where it's not a fight, it doesn't do damage, whatever. It's almost like a training mode. And if I could load in a Simon and just continually do parries and then go, okay, now I'm going to try him for real and go back. Some option to learn that. Any option would be great. But I ain't doing a 2-minute run back every time you learn the 15-hit combo string.
Exactly.
And it's not like it's easy either. God forbid I fuck up once.
It is very hard.
Yeah.
When it says he does a combo at light speed, he does a combo at light speed.
Oh yeah, they ain't fucking kidding, yeah.
And he's very cool, and the track they plays during his fight is amazing.
That's good, yeah.
And the scenery is great and whatnot, but I can't be bothered to learn that shit. Fuck you and die. So there's a fun thing here, which is you just one shot his phase 2 and 3 because after phase 1 you can just go through his entire HP bar in one attack.
Yeah,
which you did. Very interesting. At 30%, he normally goes into phase 3 and kicks your current party out. Kills your current party, so you have to send in the reserves. I couldn't one-shot him because my build wasn't actually that good. So what I did is I just had to like carefully get him to 30% HP, where he has like a little nick in his HP bar. So you get him down to there, stack all buffs again, and get do Gommage on Mael, which goes through the last 30% pretty easily. And then you just skip phase 2 this way. But like, which is like a completely different way of how Doc did it, but the problem both of these strategies show to me is that it's the most fun way is to just not learn the boss that you're supposed to learn.
I definitely had more fun making the one-shot build than I had
exactly
learning the fight with the restrictions that we talked about. Like I'll just go over what I did very quickly since you went over what you did. So I was talking earlier. Basically, Simon steals your shields in the second phase, and Dom was saying to me, as I say, he steals your shields. Probably best to lose the shields. And me being stubborn, I went, no, I am going to, I'm going to
make more shields.
I'm going to make more shields. I'm going to find a way to make this work. And immediately I saw there was the Picto that gave you more damage for the amount of shields you had. This led me down a road then of finding out if I auto-kill 2 of my characters and then had them auto-revive, it'll give all the shields in my L, power up with buffs. Then she had additional Pictos, like for every buff I have, I get a damage increase. Basically, every damage increase for anything. Like, and when they died as well, too, they made the enemy burn, and Mael would do more damage to the enemy while they were burning. So it was basically just a big, massive daisy chain of all these things that I knew would proc off the death. And Mael's first turn would go. I would put Defenseless on him again with a buff to attack against defenseless enemies. And I'd switch the turn off the CL, and CL has an ability to give other people a turn. So then I would pass the turn back to Mael and then one-shot them. And that was the whole strategy.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Like, there's like a lot of stuff you can do, and if you're into build crafting, the game does give you a lot of stuff you use your crafted builds on, so that's fun. But it is like...
Oh, sorry, I missed a step. CL has also an ability that doubles the damage of the next hit. So I pass the CL, double the damage, pass it back to Mael, and then she's doing double that, plus every buff I had on her. And yeah, like, it overkilled the boss by a fair bit. It wasn't just a one-shot, it would have one-shot a boss with twice as much health.
Yeah, pretty funny. Like, I did like I missed like the mark on my end as well, and 1 or 2 more things, but like you get like the idea. There's so much you do here to optimize this damage, and that part's really fun. But I wish I didn't have to. I didn't feel like I had to do this essentially, because I did really enjoy in 1 and 2 where I parry stuff and fight it like on the game's terms rather than this, as you said, Yu-Gi-Oh battle essentially.
Like, what is unfortunate, while that essentially I feel is the option they're kind of pushing you towards more, and while that is fun making your build, the UI through which you make your build is dog shit. Like, I'm sorry, guys, it's terrible.
It's terrible.
Like, it took me much longer than it should have for me to filter through this and find the strategy I wanted to do. Because basically, like, they basically dump. We were talking about Pictos and Luminas earlier. They basically dump those in a huge, massive list that has no useful filter options. Really, like you can sort of filter when you know what you're looking for. The most useful thing you can do is you can favorite certain Lumina.
Yeah.
But then it just goes into a big bank of favorite Luminas. It's really, really bad, and it's so bad to the point that I had the build in mind I wanted to do, but I forgot like 2 Pictos in the way, because it just it's not obvious looking. I was like, why did I not proc? And I was like, oh fuck, I didn't equip it. I thought it was equipped, but these things should be automatically obvious. Like in Mario, about the 1,000-Year Door, the badge system is really clear. They're big, colorful badges, and it shows you exactly what they're doing on a big menu that's all very, very clearly highlighted. This needed another pass. I'm sure they're not happy. I'm sure they didn't kick this out and go, we're happy with how this is. It's probably just they didn't have the time. They put in a solution better than this one. But damn, it really needs one. And that's a really easy quality of life. Even if you just made loadouts, even if you didn't change the menu, I don't like the menu still, but even if you just made loadouts so I don't have to really interact with it more than the once or twice I'd be doing it, then that'd be cool. And what that means is then too, is I could have made a loadout that wasn't my one-shot build and went back to that to do the final boss.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that also happened to me at one point where I was like, well, I gotta go back. And then the boss also drops, like, it's like Simon drops a super cool weapon. And I was like, oh, now I gotta make a new build. And, like, my old build is also destroyed again because I can't go back to it whenever I want. It's so annoying. Oh, yeah, on a side note, Apparently, that weapon causes a fucking memory leak, most likely.
You know,
I'm not sure if that's what it is.
I played with that weapon after I got it just to test this because
Yeah.
you told me this, and I didn't experience this, so that's interesting.
I saw people say this happens on both PC and PS5, which is very interesting. Like, it happened to me on PS5, which is where I played it. Doc also played on PS5, and it didn't happen. Like, people have been saying it happens on PC as well, where, like, your game starts running like shit if you fight too much using this weapon. But I guess Doc is just fucking built different.
Maybe the problem was because I had my L1 shot build. Verso barely got a chance to move, so maybe
maybe he needs to do actual attacks with the animation. Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, we're sitting bug fixing this now for this motherfuckers. You know what I mean? QAing.
Yeah, like maybe they should have hired like a 31st guy.
Yeah, 31st and 32nd should have hired me and you.
Yeah,
we could have found this shit.
Yeah, but no, it's like don't get me wrong, it's like super cool weapons, super fun to use.
Yeah, it's like in the same way Simon can do like the after images of attacks. You basically get that now, and it's super. Like when you see a boss do a cool move like that, the first thing you think is, "I wish I could do that." And right away, they just give it to you. It's like, yep, no notes, perfect, nice, good job. Maybe have frustrating elements about that fight itself, but that reward, that's sick as hell.
Yeah, very cool. Like, this is also like a bunch of this stuff is things I think they can patch in. I think they can patch this UI to have like loadouts and be maybe like loadouts are, in my opinion, probably the easiest solution, but maybe they can even change other stuff. I think they can patch in a button to restart fights. This is like, I don't know if they will, mind you, but this is stuff that I just hope gets fixed. This isn't like, this is like outlandish, I think, to expect them to do something about it.
Oh.
And if they don't, I don't think like this game is like ruined or something, but this is stuff I wish they change about this game. And like obviously there's stuff I hope they improve for the next game if it is even something similar but like this, but like before they move on I hope there's like 2 or 3 things they still maybe patch about this one.
Yeah, for those who come after and all, they should
exactly.
they should pave the way for us, but
because you guys are buying the game now because of this podcast episode, so
absolutely. But they actually did say already that they were doing DLC, I believe, which is great, or they're considering heavily at least doing that. And
I think they're considering it and didn't have plans at the start.
Yeah, they didn't have plans at the start, but probably because of the sales, they can justify it.
They did know.
yeah, like which is great because this is the best case scenario, right? This isn't just like a indie darling game that no one played, and we have these problems and they can never be sorted. They have a really, really unique opportunity now to go on and do these things. I think they absolutely should. They should make this game future-proofed against those problems that people will have in the future, because it is. Oh, sorry. Random notifications that are going mad on my PC. I don't know what that was. It's going to age well, this game, I feel. I think it's going to age really, really well. It's got problems, sure, yes, but you can sand off these ages a bit with not that much more work, and especially if you're going to do more work on a DLC chapter, which I'm really interested in even seeing what that would be in this game. Do a Game of the Year edition. I'm sure these guys never thought those words were entering their head when they made this game. But do a Game of the Year edition, add all this shit done. I'll rebuy it if I have to. It's that good.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I'll buy anything they make.
It's kind of it's kind of like for me, like when and this is one of my favorite game revisions ever, was Metal Gear Solid 3, which is one of my favorite games. Full stop. And the original Metal Gear Solid 3 had the top-down camera, and in Metal Gear 3 Subsistence they put the third-person camera in, and man, that added so much to that game. How much detail you can see in that environment with just that third-person camera, and that's like the main change in that version of the game. There's not that many other changes, and for me that increases the lifespan of that game like exponentially, even though it's already an excellent game. So I really hope they go on and do some things like that. Like, I don't care about like them putting an interactable environment. I'm just mentioning that as a flaw. Like, don't do that
like for
shit.
The next game.
Yeah, don't
want to.
Don't be doing that shit. Give me a menu for Luminous, please. Don't leave me with a shitty ass UI.
Yeah, and like another like sometimes like these little changes can go a long way. For another favorite of both of us actually, which is FF12, where like in the Zodiac Age version they had a patch later on which would let you set 3 instead of 1 sets of of gambits and would let you switch jobs between characters. And these are like 2 changes that are changed this so fundamentally and fix like big issues. And or in the case of more gambits, make it even more of the best combat system ever made. This is I don't need like a million years of support for this game. Don't worry, it's like pretty good the way it is. You can move on to the next one, but I wish they fixed like 2 or 3 things still.
Yes, that's stuff entirely accomplishable if they're already working on a short DLC chapter. Say a short DLC chapter they work on for most of this year, and maybe it adds maybe a couple hours of content, which would be plenty. You know what I mean, like 2 or 3 maybe max.
My guess, like for a DLC, even would be like something based on the family, like the other family members.
Oh, interesting. Okay, because what I thought it would be the first expedition with Ursa.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like they do include a bunch of the family members, I guess.
Yeah. But I guess we're coming at it from different angles a little bit. Yeah.
I was thinking like maybe like even Claire and Simon.
Being
involved.
That'd be fun.
Well, Simon is part of Expedition Zero. Mm-hmm. I think Claire is as well.
Yeah.
That's where they meet each other very correctly.
What's it called? Also, I will say very quickly. You made a very good point there that gambits are part of the best battle system ever made. So therefore, Clair Obscur's trash.
Yeah, it should
have put gambits in it.
Passion gambits, obviously.
Give me a gambit that can parry this shit. You know.
Yeah.
Just parry this, please.
But I think like Expedition Zero, like in a way that. You know, you can once again take inspiration from the best. What are like Souls DLCs like? This is also like Expedition Zero is like a Souls DLC essentially.
Yeah.
You know, this is what they would make a DLC about.
Yeah, you go back to some like important event or meet important characters in the lore and myth, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like maybe you get to play as them or something because there's a game where you play as multiple characters. So.
Yeah. And then you look at it from the other angle, and you get to see like Verso meeting SKA for the first time, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that'd be
great.
Kind of stuff. They should do that. Yeah. I would do
like
that.
if they wanna, but like even if they don't make DLC, whatever, just move on to the next one. If they want to make DLC, I'll also be there. It's like this is like a studio everyone should keep their eyes on.
I'm really interested. They think about what they would do next. Actually, will it be a JRPG? Like obviously they've cut their teeth in this now, and they're good at it. But would they make something maybe like an action game, or who knows? Because they got the money and the capital and probably the freedom now. They pick what they want to do, unless they've already locked in something, which is very possible.
Like if you want to make a sequel or like even another JRPG, whatever, that's also a good idea. Like
I like the idea too. Like they've essentially established a lore where they could be. Like they couldn't make a story about this specifically again because of the nature of the story. But they could make a story about like what does the writer's magical world look like, because that's a whole element, you know, and
like maybe musicians. Or
have one that's set just in the real world and not involving these magical worlds, and that's just another element of the story.
You just play as Mael with a gun.
You play as Mael with a gun and one eye and a burnt face.
Yeah, he just shoots.
People look at you and go, ah! She shoots
She's heading off. It's just like a normal, realistic lock.
Just like Hatred, but starring Mael, basically.
Hatred.
Hatred.
Yeah, what was I gonna say? I was gonna just briefly talk about the ending because I actually don't really want to give away the endings, even despite all the spoiler stuff here. Because I do think the endings are like once again stand out. There's very good. There's like a very meaningful choice that if you pay attention should stunlock you for a bit, where you're not sure what to do here. Because these are just very like interesting choices, and you can see the perspective. And I do think one of these is supposed to be slightly preferable over the other.
I think they are steering you a certain way.
Yeah, but I think there's like no optimal solution here. Like we are doing French cinema here. We are like even something like European myths, like maybe even something akin to like German or like a northern myths, where it's like you don't get your happy ending. Sorry.
This doesn't have a happy ending. It has kind of shades of gray. I will say I've only played one of the endings and I haven't watched the other one. I was going to either watch it eventually myself or play it myself, or if you were going to speak about it, I would be fine with that too. I was coming in here in the knowledge that I may be hearing about it for the first time here. Either way, I don't mind. But the ending I picked, what I liked about it was how dark it was, and it's not an entirely dark ending, but it's, as you say, French cinema. It's got this disturbing edge to it, and it's got kind of almost this horrifying implication. It's the part of the game where after Act 3 being a slog, I'm going, oh, like, here we go, let's just go fucking finish this thing. When it got to this ending, I was kind of just watching it play out, and I found myself again finding the room around me disappearing and getting sucked into it. I was like, this is exactly what I'm coming here for. This is good shit. I heard there's apparently a lot of people don't like this ending, and they have all sorts of takes on it, and whatever, man, that's your opinion. You're totally entitled to it. I thought it was excellent, and I thought it was the perfect capstone to everything that had come before, and even redeemed some of my Act 3 boredom. Fantastic. Just like, if we're not going into spoilers, I won't go into the details, but
no, you can't. It's like a choice between Versa and Maya, essentially.
The images it left me with, like, did haunt me, like, genuinely haunt me.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
it is really, really good. Like, that is like a good. That is a very well done ending, and the game is very lucky that the ending is this good, because if it ended on like even just an okay note, it would have been like a very disappointing way to close the game, I think. But instead, it ends on arguably one of its strongest moments.
Yeah, like as we said earlier, like, I think I was expecting the ending to be something along the lines of "they're not real people anyway," and erase the canvas kind of shit. You know what I mean? But that's not the way this goes. It goes somewhere entirely different. And I gotta applaud them. I gotta applaud the writer on her first effort writing this to write an ending so excellent.
Absolutely. Like, there's some things here and there that are like a little weird, but overall it's like a very impressive game in basically every way, I think.
I can't think of an ending like it in any game, and I don't mean in particular that it does anything that stands out super hard as being super different. It's just a very well considered, sincere, haunting, like, it considers all the angles of what's happening here and shows you them in a super artistic way, and leaves it to you to connect the dots between those things. Brilliant. No notes.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I generally I think there's like a good note to end it on too. Like, we've basically you guys get the idea. Honestly, like, just even if you haven't played the game and listened to all of this, and there's like even the slightest bit of interest, just go get it, please. It is like easily one of the best games this year, and I don't think my opinion on that's gonna change.
Yeah, like, if you like RPGs at all, like you've like Persona or JRPGs in general,
if you like parrying.
If you like parrying too, yeah, but I would say specifically from the JRPG angle,
it's a JRPG.
It's one of the best JRPGs I've played. Like, overall, I think it's fantastic. Sure. Like, and I mean that from years and years of playing this. I played damn near every Final Fantasy game, and I don't think there's like a hell of a lot of people that can say that. Usually, they've missed out in entries. I've missed out in 13, haven't finished 15, and I think that's it. Isn't it?
Yeah, and like there's a bunch of other like key inspiration, again, Persona, Dragon Quest, something like that.
Yeah,
and if you're into any of this stuff, or like even the turn-based Yakuza games or whatever, you should definitely play this.
No, definitely, that's another good one too. Like, if you have any interest in it at all, but as Dawn also says, and if you're outside of that and you don't really play RPGs and you got that little bug for parrying, well, maybe this will be your gateway into this, because that element of the game is still, like, despite our criticism about gradient parries and some elements of offense versus attack in the game, or offense versus defense, sorry, it's still excellent, and the parrying is such a fun element of the game, and there's a very good reason why people keep going on about the damn parrying, because it is good.
Yeah,
it is good.
It's really good. Yeah. So just go buy it.
Yeah,
go away. Stop, like, close the episode once it says over, so we get like the thingy, and then you just go buy it. It's like, I've been thinking, because like because people listening to the podcast also know I do have a backlog, and it's linked sometimes, but I haven't been rating stuff anymore according to numbers, because numbers are stupid. But like, if I was, would probably be like in the 5 out of 5. But I know this is, I am kind of like contradicting myself, but like, this is like just one of those games that is very memorable in a lot of good ways, and like the flaws we discuss are like I think definitely worth bringing up, but except like some part in Act 3, a lot of these aren't contracting a lot from it. Really, it's more like there's like stuff that's worth talking about, stuff that like comes to attention, especially if you pay some more attention to the actual game design. But overall, this is like such an impressive effort and such a good game in so many ways that I definitely think anyone who has like the slightest passing interest in it should definitely play it.
Yeah, if I had to give it a score, it'd be 36 out of 40 personally, but you to each their own.
I give it 33. But I'm not saying out of 1.
I had to get the Famitsu review reference in there. Sorry.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, like the Discord's weird, but that's like another point why I did want to talk about flaws while also talking about how good it is despite all of those, because it benefits no one to not talk about these.
Like this is where I'm coming from, like with stuff like this. Like I did a podcast recently with my friend Cosmic, who's been on the show as well, and we talked about the Devil May Cry anime. And I would never talk about something like that unless I had some positive things to say. And although I overall didn't really like that, I think I must have spent at least 70% of the podcast talking about positive elements. But it's in the same way with this. It's like, let's say in the off chance one of the developers listens to this, they get no benefit from me sitting here and sucking their dick and telling them it's good. You know what I mean? They might enjoy it because, like, obviously they work towards this or whatever else, and the game is good. But they got to understand that, like, I think they would appreciate that people are engaging with the art as it is and paying attention to the art. And paying attention to your art means that you have to point out these flaws. And a lot of the flaws are worth pointing. There's stuff that I felt was really nitpicky that I just didn't include in this because it's nitpicks. You know what I mean? But these are flaws that could be improved, or funny elements or sticking points, and that's what art is at the end of the day. Even the best things in the world have all these sticking points. People acting like Expedition 33 is a flawless gem. Well, yeah, if you want to put a review score in it, I would probably give it a perfect score. But like, does that really talk about what the core of the game is like? You know what I mean? What the experience of playing it's like. It's ups and downs at the end of the day, and sometimes the peaks are higher than the valleys.
Yeah, and it's like so interesting to talk about and so interesting to analyze because it's I don't know, it's the first effort by a lot of people on the team. Like there's a lot of junior devs on it. That's what I mean.
It's crazy.
The studio's first game, a bunch of very experienced developers though, and like I don't know, there's just like a very interesting game to think about. I think in a lot of ways,
and like I do feel despite the discourse being a bit shitty about this this specifically in regards to it, but like I do think they are essentially trailblazing what could be a push in AA directions for maybe a lot of studios.
Hopefully, it would be cool.
Because they've proven it. They've proven it works, and people are willing to overlook these elements, as I said earlier. And with all these flaws that I've listed and you've listed, we still said the game is damn near perfect and go buy the game. You know what I mean? It doesn't need to be perfect. We didn't need to look at that waterfall that you clipped and say that waterfall is great. We're cool with the waterfall looking like shit, bro. Where's the power?
I don't give a shit. It was funny, but like, that's how it be, Like it's a AA game basically.
No, fantastic. Like, and I hope to see many more of its ilk, not just from the studio itself, but other companies taking stabs at. Like, one thing I would love is for something like Capcom, for example, like. People have been crying out for like traditional style Resident Evil. Well, why not make a couple of AA style, you know what I mean? Fixed camera angle perspective, old school Resident Evil games. Like I know I'm the fixed camera angle guy. It's not. Not the other reason I'm saying it. Yeah, but like,
listen, I agree with you.
Yeah, there's a great scope for that, and there's money to be made, which is the most important element. It's not like the money wouldn't be made doing this. No, they stand to make a shitload of money. So I think with development costs increasing all the time, I think Samfall have bravely took a stab at their vision. And one of the many, many studios that have tried this, they're the ones that hit gold. I'm really glad it is this one. And I hope that it pushes AA games like that more forward.
Cool. I agree. And we're going to end it on that.
Nice.
And you guys are going to buy Clair Obscur now.
Nice. And I can stop pretending they like Dawn now. We can go back to the immortal enemies.
I can stop pretending to not like dog.
All act all alone.
Once again, thanks for being here with me for the third time now, I think, on this podcast. Actually, I don't know if you recorded with Michael actually when you were in Japan.
Oh no, we didn't do a record, but we did.
You didn't do anything. Okay,
we did RE2. We did
and DMC,
and we did. Was it the best stuff of the year? Remember me and Platt recorded it? Yeah, so we think so. I think it was the fourth time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You had like a guest appearance essentially. Yeah, so like a fourth time technically. Yeah, very cool. Very happy to talk about.
Yeah, always a pleasure, and you know me, I can talk about dumb video game design bullshit all day. So as you've talked to me in my voice chat many a time about, so. If you ever need someone to bounce stuff off, by all means, please invite me. I'm always honored to be here. And thank you for the invite.
Yeah, and with that, I'd say you guys can also turn off.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Catch you later.